Chapter 1004 A Way. There will be numerous future gatherings, both large and small. I can't simply avoid attending them. I have to take action. Can you truly bear to let me miss out on such a wonderful opportunity? My love, please help me. Xiao Yunduan remained silent, contemplating his options. What was he going to do? He regarded Xiao Xian with suspicion, questioning whether her claims of being bullied were true. Why hadn't he realized it earlier? Nevertheless, when he heard her plea, he couldn't find the strength to refute her or bear to do so. Xiao Yunduan let out a sigh. Xiao Xian understood that he had agreed. She immediately brightened up. My love, you're the best. I knew you would assist me. Xiao Yunduan. Tell me honestly, how confident are you? He asked. Xiao Xian's smile faded, and she responded earnestly. I can't say for certain, but I'm at least 80% confident. An 80% chance was almost as good as a guarantee. Xiao Yunduan found himself torn between amusement and frustration. After a brief pause, he suggested, let's visit the Crown Prince at the East Palace tomorrow. The Crown Prince is known for his benevolence. Let's hear his thoughts first. All right, let's go and seek the Crown Prince's support. Xiao Xian's remaining worries vanished. Xiao Xian harbored no concerns about her ability to save the peony. As long as the flower remained alive, she believed she had the power to revive it and enhance its vibrancy. It was Xiao Yunduan who felt breathless with anxiety. After all, the events had unfolded within the palace walls. How could they possibly know what was happening? However, if the Crown Prince was willing to provide insight, then there was hope. The Crown Prince would surely be aware if the peony bush was still alive. Xiao Xian had heard of the prince's benevolent nature, and hoped that he would grant Xiao Yunduan, a mere Primus, some face. With the Crown Prince's assistance, Xiao Xian would be secure. But if the Crown Prince declined, Xiao Xian would relinquish her pursuit. The following day, Xiao Yunduan sought leave from the Hanlin Academy, and together they made their way to the East Palace to meet the prince. Although referred to as the East Palace of the Great Qin Empire, it was, in fact, a separate mansion adjacent to the palace, not within its confines. Not just anyone could enter the Crown Prince's Eastern Palace. However, Xiao Yunduan's reputation was too prominent. Despite being only a 7th grade editor at the Hanlin Academy, he was the top scorer. He had even confronted the Tian family head-on, and the emperor had intervened on his behalf. It wasn't just the Eastern Palace. The more influential a residence, the more meticulous they were in selecting their gatekeepers. The position of a gatekeeper was not one that could be entrusted to a mere servant. A single offense, mistake, or unauthorized entry could potentially lead to a disastrous outcome. Upon Xiao Yunduan's introduction, a polite greeting came from the gatehouse. Coincidentally, the Crown Prince happened to be present within the mansion, and someone hurriedly went to inform him. The current Crown Prince was not the offspring of the current Empress Qi. The biological son of Empress Qi was the third prince, who had recently turned 30. The Crown Prince's biological mother was the late Emperor Xian of Qi's Empress Li. Having held power for a considerable duration, Emperor Xian of Qi's reign saw the Crown Prince reach the age of 43 this year. He was known for his integrity, refinement, and gentleness, earning him a reputation as a virtuous individual among the people. The court officials were indeed respectful and deferential toward him. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1005 at the East Palace. Upon learning that the renowned editor Xiao from the Hanlin Academy had arrived with his wife, the Crown Prince was taken aback. After a moment of contemplation, he instructed them to be brought in. During an imperial court session, his father had mentioned that if Editor Xiao encountered any difficulties, he could seek assistance from him or the princes. Since they were here, it would be inappropriate not to meet them. Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan followed a young eunuch through a long corridor and several courtyards, finally arriving at a small, exquisitely adorned parlor. Seated on the main chair in the hall was a middle-aged man donning a ginger-colored round dragon collar robe. His eyes exuded gentleness, elegance, and nobility. It was evident that he was the Crown Prince. Xiao Yunduan promptly approached and performed a kowtow. The Crown Prince smiled and raised his hand in a gentle gesture. Rise. Have a seat. Thank you, Crown Prince. Xiao Yunduan stood up and attempted to assist Xiao Xian in getting up. However, when he turned to her, he was taken aback. Xiao Xian seemed lost in her thoughts. Xiao Yunduan grasped her arms and whispered, Wife, wife. He called her multiple times, gradually raising his voice. Eventually, Xiao Xian snapped out of her reverie. Startled, she apologized. Please forgive me. It's all right, rise. The Crown Prince remained affable and harbored no ill feelings. The Crown Prince held a simple understanding of the situation. He considered that Ms. Qiao was a sheltered woman who had not experienced much of the world. It was natural for her to feel nervous and lose her composure upon seeing him. Being a magnanimous and benevolent individual, the Crown Prince harbored no blame for such a minor incident. Xiao Xian expressed her gratitude, yet her legs remained weak. Xiao Yunduan, filled with suspicion, believed that her unease was due to nervousness, much like what the Crown Prince had assumed. He cast a concerned gaze her way and helped her find a seat. The Crown Prince observed the entire scene and inwardly sighed. His fondness for Xiao Yunduan grew stronger. Xiao Yunduan displayed loyalty and did not forsake his wife. It appeared that he was not merely seeking fame. He genuinely cherished his wife. Sincerity or not, certain details could not be feigned. Unbeknownst to both of them, as Xiao Xian knelt to greet the Crown Prince, her mind buzzed with fleeting images of him. Perhaps due to the prince's esteemed status, those images were not as distinct as the other two. But Xiao Xian was certain they depicted the Crown Prince. Furthermore, if all of this was indeed true, the Crown Prince did not ascend to the throne in the end. It appeared that his fate had taken a turn for the worse. Xiao Xian felt a pang of regret. Her heart skipped a beat upon witnessing that scene, and then the images swiftly vanished. If only she had known earlier, she would have exercised control over her thoughts and observed more. However, what she had glimpsed was sufficient to shock Xiao Xian and weaken her legs. She compelled herself to push those thoughts aside and regain her focus. Fortunately, the Crown Prince did not hold them accountable for the momentary lapse. Yet the weight of the Crown Prince's grim fate weighed heavily on Xiao Xian, causing her to feel a sense of suffocation. The Crown Prince gazed at the couple and inquired with a gentle smile. Editor Xiao, why have you come to see me? Xiao Yunduan and Xiao Xian exchanged glances and were about to rise and respond when the Crown Prince interrupted. Please remain seated. There is no need for formalities in my presence. Yes, thank you, Your Highness. Your Highness, I heard that there has been an issue with the peony flowers in the palace. It is quite coincidental. My wife possesses expertise in cultivating and preserving flowers and trees. Perhaps she could find a way to save them. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1006. Am willing to try. Xiao Xian bowed respectfully and stated, Your Highness, I am willing to make an attempt. Upon hearing Xiao Yunduan mention the peony flowers in the palace, a shadow crossed the Crown Prince's eyes. Although Xiao Yunduan referred to them as peony flowers, it was evident to everyone what specific peony flowers he was alluding to. The Crown Prince harbored no desire for the royal family's affairs to become public knowledge. A tinge of disgust toward Xiao Yunduan flickered within him. However, the Crown Prince's demeanor changed upon hearing Xiao Yunduan's words. What did you just say? His brows furrowed, a mix of anger and amusement dancing in his eyes. It's all right if you say such things in front of me, but let's pretend I didn't hear it. Remember not to utter a word about this outside. Matters concerning the royal family should not be taken lightly, understood? Xiao Xian spoke up. Your Highness, I am willing to attempt it. The Crown Prince fell silent, studying Xiao Xian intently before speaking with seriousness. Do you comprehend the gravity of what you are suggesting? Even the most skilled and experienced gardener in the palace has been unable to tend to the flowers. Mrs. Xiao, where do you find the confidence to believe that you surpass them? Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan felt a sense of relief. The Crown Prince possessed a benevolent heart, as evidenced by his persuasive words. If I may be so bold, may I inquire, Your Highness, whether the peony flower is completely lifeless? Xian asked. The Crown Prince furrowed his brow, giving her a brief glance before responding. Not yet, but the situation is far from favorable. That is good, Xian responded. As long as it has not completely withered, I am willing to give it a try. During my time in the province, I managed to revive an orchid for the Xie family, so I do have some experience in this field. Xiao Yunduan provided further explanation to the Crown Prince. Understanding dawned upon the Crown Prince, and he nodded. He was aware of the Xie family as well. The eldest son of the Xie family was a remarkable individual, and the Crown Prince held great admiration for him. With this knowledge, the Crown Prince's confidence in Xian grew. After contemplating for a moment, he spoke. How about this? Tomorrow, or perhaps even today. Do you require any preparations? Xian hurriedly replied. I am prepared and ready. We should not delay any further. The Crown Prince nodded, placing even greater trust in her. In that case, I will have the Crown Princess Consort accompany you to the palace today. You may first inspect the flowers. If you succeed in curing them, the Crown Princess Consort will report it to Father, and you can openly attend to them. However, if it proves futile, do not utter a word and simply leave the palace with the Crown Princess Consort. Touched by the Crown Prince's consideration, Xian and Xiao Yunduan stood up and expressed their heartfelt gratitude. Deeply troubled by what she had witnessed, Xian couldn't help but feel a sense of unease about the future. She pondered whether paying more attention to those visions could have the power to alter the course of events. Following the Crown Prince's instructions, Princess Consort Fu did not object. She instructed Xian to disguise herself as a maid and accompany her. Together, they made their way to the imperial court. The news of the peony flower predicament had caused quite a stir in the court. It was only natural for the Crown Prince and Princess Consort to show concern for the flowers, thus justifying Princess Consort's visit to the court. Upon entering the court, Princess Consort sent her maid to greet the queen, and informed her of their intention to visit the flowers in the imperial garden. Leading Xian, they proceeded towards the imperial garden. Within the imperial garden, a vast expanse of peonies flourished, featuring a variety of exquisite and rare blooms. The cluster of flowers held immense value, and was even enclosed by white jade railings. Carefully tended to by dedicated gardeners, every precaution was taken to prevent any mishaps. The winter frames provided warmth, while the summer shade offered a cool respite. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1007. She trusts Princess Consort. Unexpectedly, an unforeseen incident occurred, adding to the already tense situation. At this moment, not only was the entire peony garden off limits, but the entire imperial garden was deemed a forbidden area. The emperor was seething with anger. Who would dare to venture into the imperial garden at such a time? Did they have a death wish? Only the queen, noble consort May, Princess Consort, and a select few noble family members dared to display their concern for the peonies in the imperial garden. No one else possessed the qualifications to show such concern. Accompanied by her attendants, Princess Consort arrived, and the two eunuchs who appeared visibly distressed immediately prostrated themselves, bowing deeply. Acknowledging their presence, Princess Consort turned to Dao Seeking and inquired, "Where is Qin gone?" Respectfully, the young eunuch replied, "Princess Consort, Master was here just moments ago. He went back to retrieve something." The hearts of the two young eunuchs were heavy, yet they dared not reveal their sorrowful expressions in front of their master. They kept their heads slightly lowered. The gardeners responsible for tending to the flowers and trees in the imperial garden had exhausted every possible method, but the flowers continued to wither day by day. They were unsure how much longer they could persevere. Within the Qianqing Palace, a group of individuals arrived each day to apply pressure and conduct interrogations. However, it was a flower, a living entity incapable of speech. How could it convey discomfort? What could a flower do? If it couldn't be healed, then it couldn't. However, the stakes were high. If they couldn't find a solution, none of them would be able to escape the consequences. Princess Consort nodded and casually found a pretext to dismiss the others, then turned to Xian and asked, "Take a look and see if there's a remedy." Xian could sense that the peony flowers still clung to life. Although their condition was dire, there was still hope. Xian carefully inspected the roots, adopting a professional demeanor. In truth, she couldn't be certain if it was due to pests, soil issues, or some other factor. But as long as the plant itself was resilient and provided with sufficient soil, water, and sunlight, there should be no insurmountable problem. After pretending to examine for about 15 minutes, Xian rose to her feet and addressed Princess Consort with a confident smile. "Princess Consort, I can indeed nurse these peony flowers back to health. However, time is of the essence. If we delay for another 4 days, even divine intervention may prove futile." Princess Consort's eyes lit up, and she cautioned, "Are you absolutely sure, Ms. Qiao? Think carefully before answering. If you succeed in saving the flowers, even without my intervention, you will be greatly rewarded by the Emperor. However, if anything goes awry, not only will you be in trouble, but Editor Xiao and I will also face dire consequences." Xian's confidence shone through her smile. "Thank you for your concern, Princess Consort. Rest assured, I am fully confident in my abilities." "Very well." Princess Consort sighed with relief and nodded. "Then come with me to meet the Queen." "Yes, Princess Consort." Empress Qi felt a surge of joy upon hearing the news. Although she didn't fully trust Xian, she had faith in Princess Consort's judgment. If Princess Consort had brought Xian to her, it meant she had confidence in her abilities. Accompanied by Princess Consort, Xian was personally taken to Emperor Xian, where she was instructed to begin her treatment. News of this event quickly spread throughout the palace, capturing the attention of numerous eyes fixated on the peony garden within the imperial grounds. The crown prince had always been dependable, and this brought a sense of relief to the concubines, princesses, as well as the palace maids and eunuchs, who secretly awaited a favorable outcome before expressing their elation. The emperor's foul mood had cast a pall over everyone, inducing trepidation. Finally, the clouds were starting to disperse. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1008. Treatment. Qinan and the others formed a circle around Xian, anxiously awaiting her intervention to save the flower. Aware that they might be attempting to steal her knowledge, Xian made it clear that she would only share the maintenance method without guaranteeing its long-term effectiveness. Flower nurturing, like any other craft, required personal exploration and cultivation. It couldn't be easily taught. Each individual had to rely on their own efforts to comprehend it. Xian possessed limited knowledge herself, so she refrained from providing extensive instruction. They wouldn't be able to replicate it on their own. It wasn't that she wanted to withhold information, but rather she had to do so. Sooner or later, the Queen and Princess Consort would issue the order. After all, who could assure that the flowers would remain in good health in the future? What if something unfortunate happened again? Xian couldn't be expected to attend to them within the court indefinitely. Apparently, Qinan and the others understood this as well. Upon hearing Xian's words, they wore expressions of naturally, without a hint of gratitude. Contrarily, they felt a tinge of unease. They weren't certain whether they hoped for Xian's success or failure in saving the flowers. A conflicted sentiment arose, leaning towards preserving the flowers. Although doing so would highlight their incompetence, at least their positions and livelihoods would be preserved. If Mrs. Xiao failed to save the flowers, they would all face dire consequences. Xian directed someone to dig out the flowers, replacing the soil and trimming the roots. After 2 hours of exposure to sunlight, she removed all the withered parts and replanted them. Then she watered them and arranged for a shade to be built. Following a series of procedures, evening approached. "Is that all?" Qinan and the others exchanged bewildered glances. Xian nodded confidently. "Tomorrow, you'll see an improvement. Don't worry." The group remained speechless. Concerned, The empress dispatched her trusted attendants from the palace to guard the imperial garden. Observing Xiaoxian's dramatic actions, Princess Consort couldn't help but inquire anxiously as they left the court. Xiaoxian offered a reassuring smile. Princess Consort, please don't worry. I have great confidence in this. With a smile, Princess Consort sighed. Well, we have no choice but to trust you. News of Xiaoxian's presence in court to treat the flowers quickly spread among the princes, nobles, and upper class of the capital. Even before she had left the palace, word had already reached various ears. Doubt pervaded the minds of many. Some even secretly mocked editor Xiao for involving his wife in such matters. Could it be that his wife's skills in tending to flowers and plants surpassed those of the specialized palace gardeners? It would be comical if she overstepped her abilities. Madame Tian felt even more disgusted. Madame Lin's attempt to teach Xiaoxian a lesson backfired. Instead, it was Xiaoxian who reprimanded the entire room, leaving Madame Tian fuming with anger. Seething with resentment, Mrs. Tian contemplated how she could humiliate Xiaoxian, when suddenly she heard the news. Madame Tian sneered, unable to contain her derision. She ridiculed Officer Tian, saying, "This woman truly has no sense of her own status. She can't even rise above her station. Yet, she dares to engage in such menial tasks, going to the palace to snatch work from the eunuchs. How utterly laughable." Officer Tian glanced at her, remaining silent. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1009 Easy. Aware of his wife's anger and complaints, Officer Tian couldn't help but caution her. Don't speak such nonsense in public. Madame Tian's expression darkened at his words. After a brief pause, she snorted and sneered. There are so many inept individuals out there. I refuse to believe she can handle it well. If she messes up, it will be quite the spectacle. Once Xiaoxian finally emerged from the court, Xiao Yunduan, who had been waiting outside, heaved a sigh of relief. They exchanged glances, and Xiaoxian nodded with a smile, instantly relieving Xiao Yunduan's anxiety. Is it a success? He asked incredulously. Xiao Yunduan couldn't help but question the sheer magical turn of events. Many had been at a loss when faced with the same problem, and even the crown prince had treated it as a major issue. Yet his wife had resolved it effortlessly, without uttering a word. Too easy. He couldn't flaunt it so arrogantly, knowing how much others would struggle. Xiaoxian smiled. Different professions exist in different worlds. While others might not understand, you know me. Their eyes met, and Xiao Yunduan burst into laughter. Indeed, how could he not know? His wife had a green thumb. Back at home, crops, fruit trees, and even the vegetables in their garden thrived under her care. She had made significant contributions. The peony flowers in the palace were merely another type of plant. What couldn't she achieve? He had to believe in her. You must be exhausted from your time in the palace today. Let's go back and rest early. All right. 2 days later, the rewards from the palace arrived. The empress attendants immediately noticed the rejuvenation of the flowers. The once yellowing leaves were no longer deteriorating. Instead, fresh new foliage sprouted forth, and the stems exhibited a healthy fading of color. Furthermore, the flowers emitted a different aura than before. Standing before them, one could sense the dense vitality pulsating within. Though it hadn't fully regained its former splendor, a unanimous thought echoed in everyone's hearts. This peony bush is on the road to recovery. Emperor Xian of Qi was overjoyed. He commended the accomplishment several times over. This peony bush held the deepest connection and yearning between him and his late mother. Even after all these years, he never ceased to think of her. It was his mother's most beloved peony flower, which she had personally nurtured. Each year, he would accompany her in admiring its blossoms. If it were to perish just like that, the void in his heart would never be filled. Officer Xiao is truly the exceptional individual I believed him to be. I did not misjudge him. I never anticipated his wife to possess such remarkable talent. I must bestow upon them generous rewards. Empress Qi's smile widened. When Princess Consort brought Ms. Qiao to see me that day, I noticed her elegance and grace. She displayed no trace of fear, and possessed a temperament that rivals that of a true noblewoman. Who could have imagined her remarkable capabilities? Women often indulge in cosmetics, pets, and flowers, but finding someone like Miss Xiao is rare indeed. The emperor recollected his encounter with Xian the other day. While he hadn't paid much attention to her at the time, he was not one to shy away from recognizing merit. With a nod and a smile he remarked, "Editor Xiao, you have good taste." Empress Qi's smile grew even brighter. Miss Xiao healed the flowers, bringing joy to the emperor's heart and mind. I wish to reward her as well. Emperor Xian of Qi burst into laughter. You should give the rewards as well. It is a reflection of your filial piety. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 10:10 Reward. The flower held immense sentimental value for the former Empress Dowager, and Emperor Xian of Qi's recognition was well placed. Empress Qi playfully teased him, bringing an even greater smile to the emperor's face. Soon, the rewards arrived at the Xiao family's residence. They received 20 bolts of exquisite brocade, 300 liang of gold, and a pair of rui scepters adorned with gold and jade. The emperor's rewards were typically modest, making it quite exceptional for him to bestow such lavish gifts upon foreign ministers. Xiao Yunduan and Xiao Xian expressed their gratitude with kowtows, and accepted the gifts humbly. Shortly after, rewards from the empress, noble consort Mei, consort Da, and concubine Wan also arrived. The empress presented them with a complete set of magnolia-patterned clothing embellished with pearls, along with 2 handcrafted palace fans. Noble consort Mei gifted them a pair of jade bracelets and pearl earrings. The other concubines contributed with various pieces of jewelry or playful trinkets. As the empress and the imperial consort had given their rewards, the other concubines naturally followed suit. Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan received a multitude of valuable rewards. With these precious pearls and vibrant embroideries, they were set for a lifetime. In any future banquets or gatherings, Xiao Xian would surely be the envy of all. Even the residences of many marquises and earls, who were already in decline, paled in comparison to the splendor and dignity they now possessed. Initially, the knowledge about the flowers was limited, but now the news had truly spread far and wide. Upon seeing Xiao Yunduan, the Hanlin Academy workers approached him, offering their congratulations with folded hands and beaming smiles. Regardless of their personal thoughts, they all wore expressions of joy and camaraderie. Xiao Yunduan's emotions were not complex. Comparing his wife to theirs, the difference was stark. Was it because he held the esteemed position of Primus that his wife possessed such remarkable abilities? TSK, now they understood why editor Xiao would rather face the Tian family's wrath than divorce his wife. His wife had made such a monumental contribution. Who would dare to provoke her? With the emperor's generous rewards, as well as those from the empress, other princesses, and the crown prince, the 300 taels of gold alone would allow editor Xiao and his wife to live a luxurious life in the capital for several years. The scholars from the Hanlin Academy were known for their modest means. But look at editor Xiao now. Madame Lin and the others who had gathered that day were feeling dejected, envious, and resentful. Xiao Xian was an audacious woman who seemed to disregard the rules. How could she be so fortunate? It was exasperating. Particularly the lady who had shared the information about the 8 trigrams of peony flowers in the court. Xiao Xian must have heard the news from her when she went to the court the next day. And there she was, reaping all the credit without saying a word. The more she dwelled on it, the more she seethed with indignation. She believed she deserved a portion of the credit no matter what. Unable to contain herself, she confided in her husband. He too felt envious and furious. He couldn't help but admonish her. Don't speak of this matter outside anymore. The ancients were right when they said the more you talk, the more mistakes you make. If that weren't the case, he wouldn't allow others to benefit unjustly. That editor Xiao had grown so well respected that even the chancellor regarded him in a different light. Who among the officers would dare to provoke him? Especially Qiao Hongxi, who would actively avoid him whenever they crossed paths. The lady was also filled with frustration, so she couldn't resist the temptation to visit the Xiao family's mansion and direct some biting remarks at Xiaoxian. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 10:11 Luck. She was insinuating that without her, Xiaoxian would have been unaware of this information and wouldn't have made any contribution. Xiaoxian found himself both irritated and entertained. He hadn't intentionally sought this information from her, nor had she purposely shared it with him. She was merely flaunting her knowledge and treating it as gossip. The reason he paid attention was that the person who uttered those words didn't mean them, but the person who overheard them did. Furthermore, she would have to rely on her own abilities to make significant contributions. Moreover, she would be taking a substantial risk. If he succeeded, she would receive recognition for her valuable assistance. However, if she failed, Xiao Yanduan's future would be destroyed, and she might even lose her life. She couldn't simply assume it was a stroke of luck. Ultimately, in this person's eyes, it was all because of her help that he succeeded. Of course, Xiaoxian didn't deny that he received the information from her. Since she had approached him, he could offer her some benefits. However, she shouldn't feel indebted to him. Xiaoxian smiled and remarked, "I was merely fortunate. In truth, I wasn't certain before entering the court. I simply want to inquire, if I had heard the news from my sister and informed her that I could cure the peony in the court, would you have been willing to accompany me to the East Palace?" The madam was rendered speechless in an instant. Although she wanted to say yes, she couldn't bring herself to do so under Xiaoxian's intense gaze. She was absolutely certain that if Xiaoxian had approached her with the same proposition, she would have rejected it without hesitation. What a ridiculous idea! Who would dare to take such a risk? It would be all well and good if she succeeded, but what if she failed? How could she be certain of Xiaoxian's abilities? What if there was no solution? Wouldn't he be implicated because of her? This was definitely insufficient. Xiaoxian smiled knowingly. The lattice face turned crimson, and she felt a tinge of embarrassment creeping in. Xiaoxian's words made her feel slightly ashamed. Xiaoxian paused her actions and spoke with a smile. "The other day, I consulted my husband about this matter, and he informed me. That's why I dared to come to the East Palace to meet the Crown Prince. However, I must acknowledge that I initially received the news from you. Otherwise, I might not have come across it from other sources. I should express my gratitude to you, sister." The madam was left speechless, unable to refute her words. Not many individuals were privy to this information, but it wasn't entirely undisclosed. Xiaoxian could have learned about it from another source. Consequently, all the resentment and the sense of being owed by Xiaoxian, along with the obligation to express gratitude and make amends, vanished. Upon hearing Xiaoxian's words, she felt a sense of relief. Besides being delighted, she was also grateful. With a smile she said, "Sister, you are truly kind." Xiaoxian modestly smiled and insisted that she stay for lunch, presenting her with a generous gift. The lady bid farewell happily and headed home. Once they arrived, they eagerly opened the gift box. Inside, they discovered 2 exquisite garments and a banknote worth 100 liang. This unexpected windfall brought immense joy to her heart. She couldn't help but inwardly sigh. Miss Chiao was no ordinary woman. With just a few words, she had rendered her speechless and granted her enough respect to prevent any animosity. Well, let bygones be bygones. In the future, she should strive to grow closer to her. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 10:12 It's all for me. She had a strong intuition that getting closer to Xiaoxian would be beneficial, not a loss. As for the Qiao family and the Tian family, definitely not. Xiaoxian didn't need to ponder over it to realize that. They weren't the only ones. Even noble Consort Mei, residing in the palace, felt a sense of ennui. Tian Shanshan was her own niece, and witnessing her endure such grievances pained her deeply. Initially, She believed that Xiao Xian had taken the initiative to marry Xiao Yunduan, resulting in Tian Shanshan losing her opportunity. In her eyes, Xiao Xian wasn't worthy enough to even lace her shoes. However, she never anticipated that Xiao Xian would be praised and rewarded by the emperor and the queen. Listening to the empress' words, claiming that Xiao Xian possessed dignity and magnanimity, and was in no way inferior to a legitimate daughter. What did she mean by that? Wasn't she openly and covertly targeting Shanshan? To put it bluntly, they were indirectly talking about her. Nevertheless, since the empress had rewarded Xiao Xian, noble consort Mei had no choice but to begrudgingly follow suit. The mere thought of it left her feeling incredibly stifled. Noble consort Mei couldn't let it slide. She urged her son, the fourth prince, to teach Ms. Qiao a lesson, no matter what. Xiao Yunduan didn't have to lift a finger, but Ms. Qiao couldn't escape so easily. Otherwise, Shanshan would be left in utter misery. Moreover, by dealing with Xiao Xian, it would be a way to slap the queen's face. Contemplating the queen's remarks about Xiao Xian, noble consort Mei couldn't help but feel a surge of anger. The fourth prince was also growing restless. Editor Xiao had escorted Ms. Qiao to meet the crown prince. Over the past couple of days, his father had been heaping praises upon the crown prince, emphasizing his kindness and filial piety, which had left an impression on the fourth prince. He had clearly sent someone to establish a connection with Editor Xiao and extend goodwill. But Editor Xiao feigned ignorance and rejected his father's kind intentions. Instead, he turned around and sought favor with the crown prince. It was truly despicable. Given the circumstances, the fourth prince didn't mind teaching Editor Xiao a lesson. Weren't they on the verge of leaving the capital to return to their hometown for ancestral rites? Once they departed, there would be ample opportunities. Soon enough, Hanlin Academy withdrew Xiao Yunduan from his position and instructed him to return to his hometown for the ancestral rites. That was precisely what Xiao Yunduan desired, so he departed from the capital alongside Xiao Xian. As the Primus, he was returning to his hometown to pay respects to his ancestors. Following the established protocol, the Ministry of Rites arranged for an escort of honor, horses, and guards. A grand procession of over 30 individuals embarked on their journey. The Ministry of Rites had provided for the expenses of the trip, relieving Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan of any concerns. However, the allocation provided by the Ministry of Rites was just sufficient, leaving no room for surplus. On the day of their departure from the capital, Xiao Xian handed 500 liang to the manager responsible for the logistics, instructing him to enhance the quality of everyone's meals and accommodations throughout the journey. Additionally, each individual received a red packet containing 10 liang. Initially, the members of the escort team had reservations about undertaking such a demanding task. However, now they expressed their gratitude wholeheartedly. They took great pride in escorting the Primus back to his hometown for ancestral rites. Although the imperial court had dispatched personnel to accompany them, it was unlikely that any bandits or troublemakers would dare to rob or cause trouble along the way, unless they had a death wish. Everyone had absolute confidence in their safety. Any individual foolish enough to lay a hand on the Primus, or the officials from the imperial court, was effectively signing their own death warrant. However, Xiao Xian remained vigilant and cautious. Whenever they traversed through remote regions, she would employ her heightened senses to scan the surroundings within a radius of 500 or 600 meters. She also conducted periodic checks of their surroundings. For Xiao Xian, it was merely a reflex that occurred whenever the thought crossed her mind. It was not a futile effort. Developing such a subconscious habit proved beneficial and provided a sense of security. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 10:13. Actually, it's all like this. All the precautions and vigilance proved to be worthwhile. To Xiao Xian's surprise, one day while passing through a narrow canyon after entering the Zheng state, she encountered individuals with malicious intent. Behind a mountain rock, dozens of individuals lay in wait, their faces concealed by masks. They donned worn-out combat attire, with some wearing tattered head coverings and others having disheveled hair and dirt-streaked foreheads. Their appearances were reminiscent of a group of mountain bandits. However, that was far from the truth. Xian overheard their conversations, and with each passing moment, her heart sank deeper and her anger intensified. They weren't genuine bandits. Instead, they were trusted guards dispatched by the fourth prince. Their purpose was to exact revenge for Tian Shanshan. At that moment, Xian recollected that the fourth prince was elder Miss Tian's cousin. It was only natural for a cousin to stand up for their kin. Yet it was the Tian family who had initiated the conflict. And now they sought to engage in further violence, bloodshed, and injustice. While not everything in this world could be reasoned with, this was an outrageous act. Listening to their jests and boasts, it became apparent that their intention was to rob and harm Xiao Yunduan, both in terms of his wealth and his well-being. They decided to lead Xian away, leaving tracks for them to follow. They would allow them to chase after her, buying enough time for Xiao Yunduan and the others to come to her rescue. But she couldn't make it too easy for them. They would pretend to put up a struggle for Xian, as if she were no match for her assailants. This would give her comrades the opportunity to save her. However, she couldn't emerge unscathed. Her clothes had to be torn, her hair disheveled, and one shoe missing for added authenticity. As the group continued their crude banter, their obscene remarks growing more repulsive, Xian's anger intensified. Despicable, vile, treacherous, and wicked. These people were truly despicable, and the fourth prince was no exception. Xian activated her powers, manipulating the vines to dislodge rocks and soil from the cliff above. As the dozens of individuals reveled in their conversation, saliva flying, a sudden cascade of rocks startled them. They screamed in terror, scattering in all directions, their initial enthusiasm replaced by panic. "Oh, let's move away. It's dangerous, hurry up." Xian sneered silently. Leaving? Never. There was a price to pay for one's foul mouth. Xian activated her superpower again, and the vines around them moved nimbly, tripping all of them and making them scream. Some ran too fast and fell heavily, some sprained their legs, some were hit by rocks that rolled down the cliff, or some fell on the thorny bushes. In short, there were screams and wails everywhere. It was not easy for this group of people to return to the nearby village and town safely, let alone stop somewhere and rob them. Only then did Xian withdraw her superpower. Her group passed through the canyon unscathed. But that was not the end of it. When she went to the capital again, she would definitely find an opportunity to get back at him. That fourth prince seemed so free, right? She was going to get him busy. They would spend the night in Lingzhou and travel before dawn the next day. If they hurried along the way, they would be able to return to the province before sunset tomorrow afternoon. When they returned to the province, they would be able to return home the day after tomorrow. The two of them could not conceal their excitement. Xiao Yunduan looked at Xian with a very bright and deep look. He had even offended the Tian family for her sake. She should be able to see clearly how he treated her and never feel any worries. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 10:14. Embarrassed. Since that was the situation, they decided to consummate their marriage. While they were still in the capital, Xiao Yunduan asked Xian when they would consummate their marriage. Xian was taken aback and nearly fled in fear. She didn't want to escape, but Xiao Yunduan caught up to her swiftly. Despite his seemingly gentle demeanor, he gradually pressured her without giving her any room for ambiguity. Her face turned red, and she felt anxious. Eventually, she reluctantly nodded in agreement, but a consummation of their marriage was not appropriate within the capital's confines. The bustling city demanded their attention with numerous responsibilities. Xiao Yunduan had to remain vigilant every day, unable to find peace. It was better to postpone such a matter. Moreover, she wasn't truly prepared for it. Xiao Yunduan was well aware of this, but if he didn't push her, he might have remained single for the rest of his life. After returning to Shouting Village, he would wait. He had waited patiently for so long. Waiting for a little over a month wouldn't make a difference. He had done everything he could, and she had no choice but to agree. Setting aside everything else, How could she be so shameless? Therefore, since their departure from the capital and passing through the state of Zheng, as they drew closer to their hometown, Xiao Yunduan would gaze at Xiao Xian with tenderness and a smile, causing her to feel guilty and uneasy. She wished she could pretend not to understand the meaning behind his gaze. Unfortunately, she couldn't. She understood it in an instant. Most importantly, he knew that she understood his intentions at a glance. As they drew closer, Xiao Xian grew increasingly flustered. Xiao Yunduan found amusement inwardly, but maintained a composed demeanor, as if nothing had happened. Observing this, Xiao Xian became even more nervous. Since it was still early, Xiao Yunduan suggested they take a stroll together and have dinner outside before returning to the inn. Coincidentally, they nearly ran into County Magistrate Xiao and Madame Xiao, who were on their way to the capital. As County Magistrate Xiao's entourage passed by, they began searching for an inn to stay at. Sensing their presence, Xiao Yunduan and Xiao Xian quickly hid, wanting to avoid meeting County Magistrate Xiao's family at this time. When Xiao Xian noticed their family entering a medium-sized inn not far away, she couldn't help but feel a twinge of excitement. I really want to follow them. Most importantly, concubine Xing was not faring well. Dealing with that woman was no easy task, and witnessing her confrontations with Madame Qiao would certainly be interesting. Xiao Yunduan smiled. It's not very convenient. Just endure it for a while. We'll see them in the capital. True. Imagining the reactions of County Magistrate Qiao and Madame Qiao upon learning that the Qiao family had severed ties with them, they couldn't help but exchange smiles. Especially after learning how the Emperor protected Xiao Yunduan and Xiao Xian, praising them for their contributions to the empire. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 10:15. So angry. Her father, who was solely focused on climbing the ranks and driven by greed, must have been seething with anger. Wait, the news of Xiao Yunduan's promotion to intermediate Primus must have spread like wildfire, right? Her despicable father and Madame Qiao must have been filled with anxiety upon hearing the news. Indeed, that was exactly the case. County Magistrate Qiao had no knowledge of the misdeeds committed by his mother and two brothers. However, when news of Xiao Yunduan's promotion reached the county, he couldn't contain his excitement, sporting a constant smile. With concubine Xing's praises about Xiao Yunduan, County Magistrate Qiao's joy knew no bounds. This was his son-in-law. If his son-in-law became an intermediate Primus, he would feel immense pride. Moreover, the timing was perfect for his return to the capital. As the father of an esteemed Primus, he could seize this opportunity to gain more attention, forge valuable connections, and perhaps even stumble upon unexpected benefits. Fueled by concubine Xing's persuasion, County Magistrate Qiao made up his mind to return to the capital, paying little heed to Madame Qiao's condition. Madame Qiao was infuriated. The news of Xiao Yunduan's promotion stirred a storm of anger within Madame Qiao. So, what had she accomplished? Xiao Xian's former fiancé had passed the examination, while her true husband had ascended to the position of intermediate Primus. What had Madame Qiao achieved by attempting to ruin Xiao Xian's marriage? That despicable concubine Xing even had the audacity to praise Xiao Xian as a fortunate woman. And the old master seemed to agree. Madame Qiao loathed her even more, and her health, which had been improving, took a turn for the worse. Xiao Wei's anger only fueled Madame Qiao's growing irritation, leaving her with a profound ache in her heart. Auntie Ling offered comforting words to Madame Qiao. So what if Xiao Yunduan is the Primus and second Miss is the wife of the Primus? They will still have to show you respect. I hold filial piety in high regard, so let's see if they dare to be unfilial. If Madame declares them as such, second son-in-law will lose his position. I doubt they would dare to defy that. Madam, you must take good care of yourself. As long as you're present, they won't be able to cause any trouble. Madame Qiao felt slightly reassured. That's right. Xiao Yunduan had obtained an official position, and he couldn't afford to disregard filial piety, or else he would risk losing his position. Xiao Xian would be taught a lesson if she dared to challenge Madame Qiao. Surprisingly, Madame Qiao let out a sigh of relief, and resolved to regain her health. She wanted to live a long life and make trouble for Xiao and Xiao Yunduan. However, before she could act, concubine Xing and Officer Qiao caused her further trouble. Officer Qiao suggested leaving Madame Qiao and Qiao Wei behind to recuperate while they returned to the capital first. Madame Qiao grew annoyed once again. Of course, she refused and insisted on accompanying them. On that day, she coincidentally encountered Xiao Yunduan and Xiao Xian, who were returning to pay respects to their ancestors. However, they were unaware of Madame Qiao's presence. The following day before dawn, Xiao Xian, Xiao Yunduan, and the others set off. Their journey went smoothly, and they arrived at the province before sunset. The establishment of the new Primus ceremonial entourage naturally drew attention in the province. The magistrate's office promptly responded and warmly welcomed the group, inviting them to rest at the courier station. While Xiao Yunduan entrusted Songshi with delivering greetings to the Xie family, he himself went to meet the magistrate. He displayed politeness and good manners, greatly pleasing the magistrate. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1016 Province. The prefectural magistrate went out of his way to show hospitality, ordering a lavish spread of food, and inviting several junior officials and prominent figures from the local government office to warmly welcome them. Although Xiao Yunduan held the rank of a 7th-grade official, his potential for a promising future was evident. Being a capital official, he naturally commanded more respect than local officials. Furthermore, as the province's primus, he brought pride to the magistrate, who was more than willing to extend him courtesies. The magistrate had initially intended for his wife to entertain Xiao Xian, but Xiao Yunduan graciously declined, informing him that Xiao Xian would be visiting First Madam instead. Therefore, the plan was abandoned. Word had spread throughout the province about Xiao Yunduan's ascent to the position of primus. First Madam, Yuezhing Xiao, and Xie Jingrong were all filled with joy for his achievements. First Madam couldn't help but feel envious. She scolded Yuezhing Xiao. I no longer aspire to be the primus, but being recommended man would make me proud. At least she would be proud of me. Upon hearing this, Yuezhing Xiao's scalp tingled, and he quickly made an excuse to leave. Upon learning that the primus had returned to pay respects to his ancestors, First Madam was contemplating the veracity of the news. She was about to send someone to gather more information when Xiao Xian arrived at her doorstep with Li Xia and Li Qiu. First Madam was elated and personally greeted her. Xiao Xian felt a warm connection with First Madam, as if they were mother and daughter. Xiao Xian also paid a visit to Madame Yuezhing, presenting her with a gift. Madame Yuezhing was equally delighted, and engaged her in a friendly conversation. Madame Yuezhing had to admit that the Qiao family had a knack for making friends. Upon arriving at First Madam's residence, Ms.Yan welcomed them warmly, and engaged in pleasant conversation. When Xiao Xian distributed rewards, the entire household of First Madam and Ms.Yan shared in the happiness. Since Xiao Xian was staying at First Madam's residence, she joined them for dinner. During the meal, Xiao Xian shared stories about the capital and the sights she had seen. Afterward, she confided in First Madam about the incident involving the Tian family. Ms. Fong had no knowledge of this matter, and she lacked female elders to seek advice from, except for First Madam. Upon hearing Xiao Xian's account, First Madam was taken aback and became worried for her. Her palms instinctively came together, and she chanted, "Truly, it's a blessing from the heavens. A blessing indeed. You are incredibly fortunate." Xiao Xian blushed and modestly replied, "I don't consider myself that lucky, especially since I am only an intermediate." First Madam sternly interrupted. "How dangerous could it have been? Thankfully, Primus Xiao has a conscience. Otherwise, if he had allied with the Qiao and Tian families in the capital, you would have been left vulnerable and defenseless. That would have been exceedingly perilous." Xiao Xian was startled, realizing the gravity of the situation. Initially, she hadn't given it much thought, but now, she couldn't help but break into a cold sweat. Forced to smile, she said, "It appears I am indeed fortunate. I didn't misjudge my husband." First Madam smiled and affirmed. Absolutely. I dare say there are very few men like Primus Xiao in the entire country. That's why I say you're lucky. However, the two of you don't have a solid foundation. Your father and mother have already entered the capital. When you return, trouble is bound to arise. Additionally, the Tian family may not be willing to let the matter rest. You must make plans in advance and remain vigilant. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1017 Shame. Our family may not have a business in the capital, but we do have good friends there. I will send you a letter later with their information. If you encounter any difficulties, you can seek their help. Do you need more money? When you return, I will give you tens of thousands of taels extra. It will come in handy when you reach the capital. And if you face any financial constraints, you can turn to my friend for assistance. Xiao Xian was deeply moved and replied with a smile. Auntie, we have sufficient funds, but if we ever fall short, we will not hesitate to ask for your support. First Madam smiled warmly and said, That's wonderful. There's no need to be formal with me. Just come to me whenever you need help. I don't believe the Tian family will dare to cause trouble for you in the near future. However, we cannot guarantee that they won't secretly instigate your parents to cause trouble. Primus Xiao's reputation is crucial. If by any chance things take a turn for the worse, remember to plan carefully and avoid impulsive actions. If the Tian family discovers any leverage against you, they will undoubtedly exploit it to cause trouble. Primus Xiao's career might be affected. Since the Emperor holds Primus Xiao in high regard and you have made significant contributions, you should not have to rely on anyone. It's important to maintain your integrity. If you find yourself backed into a corner, you must be reasonable. And if there's no other choice, you can seek assistance from the Crown Prince. In short, we must be cautious and tactful. We need to have clever strategies and adaptability. Money should not be a major concern. First Madam was deeply concerned for Xiao Xian, and kept reiterating her advice. Xiao Xian nodded earnestly, taking it all to heart. In hindsight, she felt a sense of shame. After smoothly winning 2 rounds, she had become somewhat arrogant, thinking that it was all manageable. Little did they know how wrong they were. So what if the Tian family lost? They would find a way out, or someone would create one for them. But for Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan, it was a different story altogether. They knew they wouldn't have another opportunity. If they failed, their reputation would be ruined, and their lives could even be at stake. Therefore, they had to remain on high alert and couldn't afford to be careless. It was already late at night when Xiao Xian finally left First Madam's residence and returned to the station. She promised to come back and stay for a few more days once they returned to the capital. The following day, Xiao Yunduan set off for home, so he didn't drink much during the evening gathering. He arrived back after Xiao Xian had returned home. They chatted for a while, and as they were about to go to bed, Xiao Yunduan suddenly smiled at Xiao Xian. Wife, in 4 days, it will be an auspicious day. Yawning, Xiao Xian opened her eyes in confusion. What? Are you planning to host a feast for the villagers on that day? Sure, we can do that. Xiao Yunduan chuckled and shook his head. No, my dear. It's an auspicious day for a wedding, my wife. Xiao Xian was taken aback, and her face instantly flushed. She instinctively touched her face and turned inward without saying a word. Xiao Yunduan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He couldn't help but hold her shoulders and give her a gentle squeeze. Darling, did you hear me? Xiao Xian couldn't help but smile, her lips curling up involuntarily. She replied softly, yes, good. Xiao Yunduan chuckled and released her, taking a step back with a silent smile. He couldn't wait any longer. Since they were leaving the next day, they needed to meet Yuezhing Xiao and Xiejingrong and return home first. During this time, the days felt long, and the nights were short. The group didn't stay in the county city and instead headed back to Shouting Village. They had already sent people back to the village to tell the news. When they arrived, they saw that the entrance of the village was filled with villagers welcoming them. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 10:18. Greeting Mr. Primus. Xiaoxian and Xiao Yunduan were taken aback by the overwhelming enthusiasm of the villagers. They had expected a warm welcome from their family, but they were surprised to see the entire village mobilized in such a grand manner. While they were not individuals driven by fame or fortune, the sight before them ignited a spark of excitement in their hearts. They exchanged glances, their smiles reflecting the joy they felt. Xiaoxian playfully teased Xiao Yunduan. Look at you, Mr. Primus, commanding such admiration. No wonder scholars aspire for glory. Such acclaim is truly something to behold. Xiao Yunduan smiled in response, his eyes filled with pride. It is your deserved honor as well. Xiaoxian's heart fluttered at his words, their love and support for each other shining through their smiles. The villagers, brimming with excitement, eagerly called out as they spotted Xiaoxian and Xiao Yunduan approaching. Here they come. Mr. Primus has returned. Our esteemed Mr. Primus has graced us with his presence. Let us welcome our esteemed Mr. Primus. We must ensure that Mr. Primus receives a grand reception. The villagers couldn't contain their joy, their faces lighting up with anticipation. They gathered around Ms. Fong, eldest uncle, the land officer, and a few revered elders of the village. Approaching the group, they bowed respectfully, their voices filled with reverence. Greetings, Mr. Primus. We bow and pay our respects. We humbly greet Mr. Primus. The sudden turn of events caught Ms. Fong, eldest uncle, and the others off guard. Their expressions showed a mix of surprise and anxiety, unsure of how to respond to such an exuberant display. Young Xiaoni was stunned and subconsciously knelt down. Xiao Sanlang. Witnessing this, Ms. Su hesitated for a moment before deciding to join them in kneeling. Xiao Yunduan and Xiaoxian were dumbfounded by the sight before them. No! They exclaimed simultaneously, quickly stepping out of the carriage and rushing forward. Xiao Yunduan assisted the land officer to rise, while Xiaoxian helped the female elders to their feet. Calling out, Dad Mom, she addressed Ms. Su and Yang Xiaoni, caught between laughter and tears. Sister-in-law, third sister-in-law, please stand up. This is unnecessary. Upon seeing her two daughters-in-law kneeling, Ms. Fong grew infuriated. What are you doing? Eldest son, third son. Have you lost your minds as well? Xiao Dalong and Xiao Sanlang swiftly helped their wives to their feet. Young Xiaoni chuckled in embarrassment. Oh, my legs simply gave out. I saw everyone else kneeling, so I followed suit. Laughter filled the air as the tension dissipated. The family elders shared in the mirth, wiping away their tears. They then proceeded back to the village with Xiao Yunduan, while Xiaoxian accompanied the esteemed female family elder and Ms. Fong. The villagers gathered around, joining the celebratory procession as they returned to the village. The gates of the ancestral hall swung open, and Xiao Yunduan, accompanied by the land officer, entered to pay their respects, offering kowtows and incense as a means of conveying the auspicious news to their ancestors. Afterward, they made their way back home. Due to the suddenness of the news, preparations had been made hastily. Fortunately, the spacious first section of the Xiao family could accommodate the influx of guests, and every room was filled with joy and celebration. Xiaoxian and Ms. Fong instructed the servants to prepare tea for the elders and arrange for the ceremonial team to temporarily settle in Xiao Zioki's yard, ensuring they had provisions and seating arrangements. Meanwhile, Xiao Yunduan swiftly took charge of the cooking duties. With an array of meats available, he quickly set up 2 tables. However, the kitchen alone was insufficient, so he sought assistance from their generous neighbors. Just as Xiaoxian was about to join in the cooking process, Ms. Fong and Ms. Su intervened. No, you don't need to do this. Fifth sister-in-law, please return to your room and rest. Third sister-in-law and I will handle it. Xiaoxian was taken aback, only comprehending the situation after a moment. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 10:19. Still a family. Ms. Fong said with a smile. You are the wife of the Primus and the official's wife now. So you are not allowed to do such menial work. You are making them lose their lifespan. Go and rest. Xiaoxian. However, she couldn't help but find it amusing. Bursting into laughter, she replied, "Don't worry, Mom. I will cook 2 dishes for my husband and 2 dishes for my parents. Besides, I need to eat too." What? Ms. Feng was delighted to hear Xiaoxian's response. She thought her daughter-in-law was sensible and filial, and with her by her son's side, she had nothing to worry about. It's rare for you to be so filial, but you don't have to go through the trouble today. Rest for a bit. You can be filial to your parents any other day. They won't miss a meal with Yin Duan around. Feeling touched, Xiaoxian smiled and said, "Mom, since you care about me, I will listen to you." All right. Now go and rest. Your sister-in-law and third sister-in-law's culinary skills may not be as good as yours, but they've improved. I'll have them send you some food later. I'll ask Li Xia and Li Qiu to help. They can send it over later. Xiaoxian smiled at Ms. Su and Yang Xiaoni and said, "Sister-in-law, third sister-in-law, we're family, so please don't treat me like an outsider. Let's maintain our close bond, just like before." Observing Ms. Su and Yang Xiaoni's respectful but somewhat helpless expressions, and hearing Ms. Zu's hesitant Xiaoxian felt a bit uneasy. She didn't want there to be any distance between them. Since arriving in this world, she had acquired superpowers, wealth, a husband, and her relationship with her in-laws was also good. All she wanted was for everyone to remain close and continue living happily. That, to her, would be the ultimate perfection and happiness. She was not that petty. They were not arrogant just because they had obtained the power. Ms. Su and Yang Xiaoni were startled. Yang Xiaoni smiled embarrassedly. Can this work? Fifth sister-in-law, you're now the wife of the Primus and the wife of an official. Xiaoxian burst into laughter. Am I still the fifth sister-in-law? Yang Xiaoni nodded dumbly. Xiaoxian tried not to laugh. Well, as long as I am still your fifth sister-in-law, we will be the same as before. This really works? Sure. All right, let's listen to fifth sister-in-law. Yang Xiaoni chuckled and looked much more relaxed. Ms. Su nodded with a smile, looking relaxed. Xiaoxian was still resting in her own yard when Ms. Su, Yang Xiaoni, Tao Tao, Li Xia Li Qiu, Ms.Yan and a few other women helped her to make a meal. Xiao Yunduan and eldest uncle were eating with the land officer and the elders, and 3 tables were set up at the ceremonial team. Xiao Dalong and Xiao Sanling greeted them. Xiaoxian did not eat in the yard, but stayed with Ms. Feng and the others somewhere else. After dinner, the land officer and the elders chatted with Xiao Yunduan and his son for half the night before they left happily. From the next day onwards, the house became a hub of liveliness. Relatives and friends arrived in a continuous stream, creating a bustling atmosphere akin to revolving doors and musical chairs. Xiaoxian found herself occupied for 5 to 6 days before finally getting a moment to catch her breath. When the auspicious day arrived, the family had led Xiao Yunduan to pay respects to their ancestors. To celebrate, the first branch of the Xiao family hosted a grand banquet, extending their warm hospitality to the villagers. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1020, Home Party. After the long-awaited banquet finally came to an end, the Xiao family let out a collective sigh of relief. Everyone was overjoyed, yet completely exhausted. It had been a challenging journey, but they could finally bask in peace and tranquility, allowing themselves to rest properly. The banquet had attracted not only the villagers but also numerous relatives, friends, local dignitaries, former classmates, and others who came to extend their congratulations. Even the newly appointed county magistrate made a special appearance, accompanied by his grandmaster, to personally convey his good wishes. Impressed by the occasion, Xiao Yunduan requested the county magistrate to escort them to the county, generously offering him a gift of 300 liang. The Xiao family's humble abode was not spacious enough to accommodate such a large gathering, and Xiao Yunduan and Xiaoxian preferred to spend the next few days in the company of their family, rather than amidst the crowd. Furthermore, There was little to do in the village, leaving them with a sense of boredom. The sum of 300 liang would sustain them comfortably in the county office for well over a month. Grateful for the newfound serenity, Ms. Fang urged Xiaoxian to organize and arrange all the presents that had been bestowed upon them during the event. Although these gifts were meant for Xiao Yunduan, Ms. Fang refrained from interfering, allowing Xiaoxian to make the decisions herself. Ms. Fang's selflessness was evident, as she had no intention of claiming anything for herself. These were rewards earned by her son, and as his mother, she wholeheartedly supported his rightful ownership. Xiaoxian acknowledged her mother-in-law's sincerity and felt a deep conviction in her trustworthiness. In any other scenario, someone might have seized the opportunity for personal gain. However, Ms. Fang's integrity and maternal love made it impossible to resist her intentions. Xiaoxian smiled in response and, with the assistance of Tao Tao, Li Qiu, and Li Xia, dedicated an entire day to sorting through the gifts and meticulously recording each one. Then Xiaoxian invited Ms. Fang to take a look at the gifts. The total sum amounted to an impressive 8,688 liang, consisting of 8 screens, each with its unique characteristics. One was made of exquisite rosewood, another intricately carved with crystal, and the third adorned with embroidered 6 jade halls. Among the presents were also 80 pieces of silk and satin, each distinct in its design and texture. Additionally, there were porcelain items, jade artifacts, purple copper wood carvings, and an array of various decorations. Not to forget, there were calligraphy and paintings as well. Perplexed, Ms. Fang smiled and remarked, "As farmers, we have no need for these items. Even if we were to select the most suitable ones, we couldn't possibly make full use of them. Choose some valuable ones from the province and bring them along to the capital. They may come in handy there. Give a portion of the remaining silver as taxes to the government, and keep the 8,000 taels. You'll find plenty of use for the silver when we reach the capital." Xiaoxian nodded in agreement and proceeded to enlighten Ms. Fang about the value of the various items, ensuring she wouldn't make any mistakes when presenting gifts in the future. Afterwards, Xiaoxian requested 6,000 liang from Xiao Yunduan. Xiao Dalong, Sanlang, Tao Tao, and the others also received their share. Although Qi wasn't present, his portion was set aside, while the rest was added to their shared savings. Following a discussion with Ms. Fang, Xiaoxian carefully selected some clothes, packed them up, and distributed them to Xiao Dalong, Xiao Sanlang, Qi, Tao Tao, and others. Tao Tao's gift was particularly valuable and exquisitely crafted, making it suitable to be preserved as a future dowry. The servants had worked hard these few days, so they were rewarded heavily as well. This time, everyone was happy. It was a family dinner tonight, and Xiaoxian was going to cook a good meal for everyone. That made everyone so happy that they took the initiative to help Xiaoxian as if it were the new year. While they were happy, everyone could not help but think of Qi and sigh sadly. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1021 Cooking. If only Qi were at home too. Qi would undoubtedly bring back the best game from the mountains and take everyone to the river to catch the plumpest, freshest fish. That would be wonderful. Regrettably, they had no knowledge of which military camp Qi was stationed in the northwest. How was he faring? Did he endure hardships? Did he long for home and his loved ones? The uncertainty of his return weighed on their minds. Despite missing him dearly, they were all mature individuals who understood that while Qi served in the army, Xiao Yunduan was flourishing with the assistance of the Xie family. Qi himself was capable and resourceful, so they refrained from dampening the festive atmosphere with worries. They continued to chat and laugh, cherishing the joyous occasion. The fish and prawns in the Zhang village pond were plump and abundant, prompting Xiaoxian to have someone catch numerous prawns, a turtle, and 2 fish. In the evening, she would prepare crispy shrimp balls, braised chicken nuggets, clear soup fish balls, beetle taro pork, sweet skin duck, crispy chicken, mutton soup, tofu sour soup, stir-fried bamboo shoots, garlic lettuce, and silky yams. As the dishes took shape, the 3 stoves simultaneously burst into action. The kitchen emitted waves of tantalizing aromas that awakened everyone's appetite. During dinner, delectable dishes adorned the table. Everyone gathered happily, engaging in conversation while savoring the flavorsome feast. Their taste buds were captivated. Finally, fifth sister-in-law's culinary skills. Fifth sister-in-law is an exceptional cook. No matter how hard we try, we can't match her. It's incredibly delicious. Truly mouth-watering. Xiaoxian was also delighted, sporting a smile. Now that I'm back, I'll cook more often, and our ingredients will always be readily available. I'll visit regularly. She had so much to attend to. How could she possibly leave? Without the assistance of her extraordinary abilities, it would be inconceivable. Upon hearing Xiaoxian's declaration, Yang Xiaoni and the others were filled with joy and eagerly inquired if it was true. Xiaoxian responded with an affirmative nod and a warm smile, bringing a sense of relief to everyone present. Xiao Yunduan exchanged a glance with Xiaoxian and chuckled helplessly. He had already discussed this matter with his wife. It was simply impossible for him to return home every year, let alone multiple times throughout the year. However, Xiaoxian was concerned about her family and their assets. If she were to come back, she would make appropriate arrangements along the way. Anticipation filled the air, enhancing the lively atmosphere at the dining table, as everyone enjoyed their meal. With a loving expression, Ms. Fong beamed with joy. They were truly a united family now. It was the greatest gift of all. After dinner, the group engaged in pleasant conversation for a while before retiring to their respective rooms for a well-deserved rest. Xiaoxian, who had been weary from the recent events, was grateful for the chance to finally get some proper sleep. In the courtyard, Xiao Yunduan stood with his hands behind his back, gazing up at the radiant moon in the night sky. The moon was more than halfway full, casting its gentle glow upon the tranquil surroundings. Moonlight cascaded like flowing water, casting ethereal shadows in the small courtyard. Amidst the lush green foliage, white gardenias bloomed, emitting a delicate fragrance that permeated the air. As a gentle breeze caressed the area, the scent of the flowers filled Xiaoxian's nostrils. Admiring the moon here, my love? Having finished her bath, Xiaoxian noticed Xiao Yunduan's absence in their room, and found him near the gardenia bush. She approached him with a smile, joining him in his moonlit reverie. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1022 Moonlit Night. Xiao Yunduan affectionately embraced Xiaoxian as she got startled, attempting to break free. However, he seemed unusually resolute today, tightening his hold and preventing her from escaping. Though not physically strong, his determination was evident. As his hands touched her, Xiaoxian's skin grew warm, causing her cheeks to flush. With a smile, she protested. "What are you doing? Let go of me." "Wife, let us consummate our marriage tonight," he whispered. "What?" Xiaoxian's eyelids twitched in surprise. "Are you unwilling?" His tone and expression softened, melting Xiaoxian's heart. Without thinking, she replied, "Of course not." "Good, as long as you agree." Xiaoxian was left speechless. Xiao Yunduan's eyes, filled with affection, sparkled under the moonlight. A charming smile graced his handsome face, making her blush. Confused, Xiaoxian stammered. But the auspicious day has already passed. Earlier, he had mentioned that they would consummate their marriage on an auspicious day, but his plans had been disrupted by the whirlwind of his return and busy days that followed. How could he find the time? That day had passed without anything happening, leaving Xiaoxian slightly disappointed. Naturally, she would never admit it to Xiao Yunduan, or his ego would soar. However, Xiao Yunduan was already quite proud of himself. He chuckled and said, "So, you've been thinking about the auspicious day. My apologies. But don't fret. Today is also an auspicious day." Xiaoxian grew startled and blushed. Playfully, she landed a punch on his arm. "What nonsense are you talking about? You. I am not thinking about it." You Xiao Yunduan burst into laughter. Yes, you are not thinking about me, but I am as well," Xiaoxian said proudly. "That is more like it." As Xiaoxian felt weightless, she realized that Xiao Yunduan had already scooped her up into his arms. Startled, she instinctively wrapped her arms around his neck. Their proximity brought their gazes together. In each other's eyes, their reflections appeared both clear and hazy. Their entwined gaze blurred their vision, stirred their hearts, and left their minds in a whirl. Feeling overwhelmed, Xiao Xian feigned composure and averted her eyes, her face and ears turning crimson. Xiao Yunduan smiled, lowered his head, and planted kisses on her cheeks, forehead, eyebrows, and finally her lips. Xiao Xian's mind went blank, her body growing limp. Her heart raced in a flurry, causing her to panic. However, Xiao Yunduan only bestowed gentle kisses upon her. Chuckling softly, he carried her towards the bedroom. Thick curtains concealed their intimate moments, keeping them hidden from prying eyes. Xiao Xian drifted into a deep, restful sleep, surrendering herself to the comfort of the bed. When she finally woke up, it was already afternoon. Sunlight filtered through the window veils, casting diagonal beams on the light green tiles. The rustling of leaves could be faintly heard as the wind brushed past. Blushing, Xiao Xian averted her gaze upon seeing Xiao Yunduan's smiling eyes. Savoring the moment, Xiao Yunduan tightened his embrace and brushed his lips against her face. "Are you awake?" Today it didn't matter if she slept in. Xiao Xian had no fear of gossip. Instead, she felt a heightened sense of embarrassment in Xiao Yunduan's presence. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1023. Finally perfect. "Why aren't you up yet?" Xiao Yunduan playfully exclaimed. Xiao Xian wished he would vanish instantly. With a tender smile, Xiao Yunduan continued to nuzzle against her. "I can't bear to be away from my wife." "You," Xiao Xian blushed, feeling utterly powerless. Her embarrassment intensified, and she weakly punched Xiao Yunduan. "What do you mean you can't bear to be away from me? I don't believe it. You're just trying to make me happy." If he truly couldn't bear to be apart from her, why didn't he stop when she pleaded and cried? Therefore, no matter how gentle and refined a man appeared, he was still the same. Especially in certain circumstances, he couldn't be trusted. Anyone who believed him would be a fool. Xiao Yunduan chuckled and pinched her cheeks. "I'm not trying to coax you." Xiao Xian snorted, closed her eyes, and buried herself under the blanket. She didn't feel like talking to him at the moment. "Wife," Xiao Yunduan's voice sounded as he was carried away. "Sleep a little longer. I'll get up first. I'll ask Li Xia to stay in the outer room. When you're ready, just let her know, and I'll bring you hot water for a bath." "That sounds reasonable." Xiao Xian felt a hint of satisfaction and nodded from beneath the quilt. Xiao Yunduan smiled and got up. His wife was finally his. His heart finally found peace. He had always been afraid she would leave, fearful that she would disappear if he wasn't careful. He couldn't bear such an outcome no matter what. As footsteps faded, Xiao Xian lifted her head from the blanket and let out a sigh of relief. She relaxed on the bed, limbs sprawled. Absently, she stared at the canopy above, allowing her mind to wander freely. Suddenly, the memory of last night flooded Xiao Xian's mind, causing her face to flush. She felt even more tender and vulnerable. Biting her lip, she rolled over with the blanket, letting out a soft sigh. However, a gentle smile tugged at the corners of her lips, and her eyes brimmed with affection. They were truly husband and wife now. From this point forward, they would stay by each other's side, supporting and cherishing one another for the rest of their lives. There was no turning back. And she didn't want to turn back. This man would eventually be hers. It had been worth the wait until now. No matter what, in this moment, she could see and feel how good he was to her. If she let him slip away, she would deeply regret it. In the first section of the family, everyone sensed that something had changed. Yet, no one could put a finger on it. Even young Xiaoni, not known for her keen perception, couldn't help but lean into Xiao Sanlang and whisper, "Brother Sanlang, don't you think fifth brother and fifth sister-in-law have grown so much closer? Look at them, they're inseparable and so affectionate." "Oh my, it's embarrassing to witness." Xiao Sanlang, being even more clueless, scratched his head and replied, "Really? I hadn't noticed. But now that you mention it, they do seem quite close. Well, it's not surprising. They must be thrilled to finally be home. Think about it, even though Old Master is highly respected, there's always so much to handle. They must feel more at ease here." Young Xiaoni pondered for a moment and nodded in admiration. She came to a realization. "You're right, Brother Sanlang. That makes sense. That's it. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1024. Inspecting the Industry. Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan were oblivious to this amusing situation. Otherwise, they would have burst into laughter. However, ever since the couple tied the knot, an unspoken closeness developed between them. Their shared understanding and the sweet aura of exchanging smiles couldn't be concealed. In the past few days, they had become incredibly affectionate, almost like newlyweds. Xiao Yunduan preferred to have no one else around except his beloved wife. They were truly inseparable. Witnessing their intimacy, Ms. Feng couldn't contain her happiness. Her fifth son had finally realized the importance of cherishing his wife. Previously, there had always been a slight distance between them, but now he had learned how to dote on his wife. Ms. Feng attributed this change to her son's newfound official position, as if his long-cherished wish had finally been fulfilled. After taking a few days of rest, Xiao Xian began organizing their belongings. Of course, lipstick held the highest priority. As planned, the flower field was expanding this year. As expected, the newly planted flowers weren't thriving as well without the assistance of superpowers. However, it didn't matter. After all, she was back now. With a few more applications of superpowers, she would be able to catch up in no time. Thankfully, the dozens of acres were still flourishing. The flowers were large, vibrant, and in pristine condition, producing the same excellent quality lipstick. This year, they had distributed a total of 80 beehives. Though they would require feeding sugar during the winter to ensure the bees had enough food, it was a worthwhile investment. After all, their bees were primarily raised for beeswax, with honey being just a byproduct. No matter how much sugar was fed during winter, they wouldn't be at a loss financially. They needed to increase the production of lipstick. The bees would have to continue multiplying next year. When Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan were absent, the silver fungus, covering an area of over 8 mu, had been harvested twice. The quantity was modest but the quality remained excellent, so Yang Xiaoni and Xiao Sanlang took charge of it. Xiao Xian pondered the possibility of expanding the scale even further. This year, cassava had also been planted on a large scale. The plant was incredibly resilient and vigorous, growing vigorously from any cut made. The abundance of leaves made it an excellent source of feed for cows, chickens, ducks, and pig pens. In the village, almost every family had planted cassava and developed a fondness for it. Many people expressed their intention to increase its cultivation next year. What amazed Xiao Xian the most was the garden spanning 12 acres behind the yard. The day after her return, she took some time to explore the area and discreetly used her superpower to aid its growth. The variety of Gastrodia elata, ginseng, and other medicinal herbs were thriving. However, it was the fruit trees from the southern region that truly astounded her. The trunks of the lychee, mango, and longan trees had grown to the size of eggs. They appeared lush and exceptionally healthy. What excited her even more was the fact that several trees had bloomed this year. Xiao Xian couldn't contain her eagerness to see the fruits, which brought immense joy to her heart. With tangible results, she had the ability to ensure the safe maturation of these fruits. Did this mean that they would be able to enjoy longan, lychee, mango, and carambola this year? It was a delightful surprise. Since these fruits could be successfully cultivated, she planned to seek assistance from Yuezheng Xiao in acquiring more southern seedlings. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1025 Fruits. The 1,200 mu of land on the outskirts of the provincial city remained unplanted. Xian couldn't help but imagine the wonderful possibilities of opening a fruit garden and raising chickens in the meantime, while waiting for the fruit trees to grow. With the ability to cultivate plants in the space, Xian had no intentions of holding back. She had already meticulously planned out the land in the space, allocating areas for orchards, herbs, vegetables, and flowers. Of course, the primary focus was growing food. There had to be ample amounts of wheat, rice, oats, corn, and soybeans. She also had plans for cassava. And in the future, potatoes would be included as well. Xian gathered dozens of false starworts, Gastrodia elata, and other herbs, planting them alongside the ginseng and lingji in the space. The spiritual energy within the space was abundant. Even if the seedlings were initially frail and weak, it wouldn't take long for them to thrive and become robust. There were also numerous fruit trees. This aspect was exceptionally convenient as they could grow and mature rapidly. Lychee, longan, mango, papaya, dragon fruit, pomegranate, fig, loquat, cherry, watermelon. Xian didn't overlook a single fruit. Once the fruits ripened, she would pick and store them in the intermediate compartment of the hut. They would remain fresh and could be enjoyed at any time. When Xian accompanied Xiao Yunduan to the capital, the honeydew seeds weren't suitable for breeding. Hence, she entrusted Tao and Ms.Su to cultivate and transplant them. During that time, she had attempted to infuse some superpowers into the seeds, but she wasn't certain if it would yield results. Judging by the current progress, it seemed to be quite effective, didn't it? The cantaloupe seedlings also appeared promising, with small melons already growing. They were incredibly adorable and charming. Tao and the others observed her attentively. Xian also transplanted several trees into the space. With the application of her superpower, the fruit trees in the garden seemed to flourish even more, radiating vibrant greenery and boundless energy. As it was the busiest time for making lipsticks, Xian, Tao, Yang Xiaoni, Chunyu, Chunfeng, and Li Xia headed to the flower field to lend a hand. Accompanied by 5 girls from the village, Tao took charge, and the girls followed her instructions diligently. They were assigned to pick and wash the petals, while Chunyu and the others transported them to the house where the lipsticks were made. The process proceeded with remarkable efficiency and orderliness. Xian was highly satisfied with the outcome. She gave Tao a thumbs up and complimented her, saying, "Tao, you're becoming more and more capable." Tao's eyes sparkled, her face beaming with pride and a hint of shyness. "Fifth sister-in-law taught me everything. I simply followed her instructions." Upon returning home, Tao clung to Xian, tagging along wherever she went. Xiao Yunduan couldn't help but feel a little down when he saw their closeness as a married couple. Xian smiled and remarked, "Tao is smart. That's why she's able to learn so quickly." Yang Xiaoni agreed, nodding emphatically. Yes, I'm not as capable as her. I'm only good with manual tasks. Using my brain and communication skills is quite challenging." Hearing this, everyone burst into laughter. The following day, Xian and Xiao Yunduan visited Zhang village, exploring the surroundings. The lush creeping fig, the inviting tea house, and the fertile fields all brought Xian immense joy and a profound sense of accomplishment. This year, tea saplings were successfully planted in all the tea houses, and the survival rate of the newly transplanted seedlings exceeded 95%. It was an excellent outcome even without Xian's intervention. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1026. The Pool in the Space. After the tea trees sprouted, Xian planned to gradually replenish the scattered seeds. The previously planted tea trees had been harvested this year, thanks to Manager Mu's efficient arrangements. With the assistance of Yuezheng Xiao and Ding Erzhu and his wife, the tea leaves were successfully produced and sold, causing quite a stir in the provincial city. Yuezheng Xiao, as usual, kept the source of the exquisite tea a secret, leaving the tea merchants perplexed and eventually giving up their inquiries. As long as they could obtain the goods and verify their authenticity, they were satisfied. As for how long they could maintain this secrecy, time would tell. Delighted by the success, Xiao Xian discussed with Xiao Yunduan and decided to purchase an additional 1,000 mu of land in Zhang village, intending to gradually establish a larger tea house. With the vast expanse of Great Qin, the demand for tea leaves was insatiable every year. The higher the quality of the tea leaves, the more sought after they became. Even if the supply increased in the future, and the prices of golden sprouts and lavender decreased, the tea house would still yield substantial profits. It was a venture that wouldn't go wrong. Such exceptional tea leaves deserved recognition and appreciation from around the world. Xiao Xian carefully stored away the tea tree as well. As they were preparing to leave, Ding Erju presented Xiao Xian and the others with more fish and prawns from the pond, urging them to take them back home. Xiao Xian attempted to transfer the prawns into the intermediate pool within the space, but to her surprise, they ended up in there too. Overjoyed, she couldn't contain her excitement. This was even better. It meant that in the future, fish and prawns could be self-sufficient. Upon returning home, Xiao Xian went to the backyard to assess the situation. She scooped up mandarin fish, eel, Chinese perch, carp, and other fish from the pool, and placed them in the designated fish pond within her space. To her surprise, the pool in the space automatically split into two sections, a pristine spring pool and a fish pond. The fish and prawns she transferred entered the designated area seamlessly. Xiao Xian couldn't help but feel amazed at the incredible functionality of the space. She pondered whether this meant that during her travels to different locations, aside from collecting various crops, fruit trees, flowers, and herbs, she could also gather local fish, prawns, and other aquatic products. If the seafood space could accommodate them, she would be overjoyed. Later that night, Xiao Xian prepared a delicious feast. The menu included tea-flavored prawns, stir-fried eel shreds, fish and goat pot, steamed meat with lotus leaves, stir-fried shredded bamboo shoots, garlic eggplant, century egg mixed with tofu, stir-fried wolfberry sprouts, and asparagus slices. Today, Ms.Yan delivered tofu along with smoked bean jerky, oil skin, and deep-fried tofu, which they planned to enjoy the next day. It wouldn't be appropriate to invite Ms.Yan for dinner alone, so they decided to invite her to join them for a barbecue in a few days. Ever since Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan returned home, the house had been bustling with activity, and Ms.Yan often came to lend a helping hand. Although she appeared ordinary, she possessed remarkable intelligence, poise, and organizational skills, earning praise from everyone. Behind closed doors, Ms. Fong secretly felt sorry for Ms. Niu and second uncle. Fortunately, the Yan family was also prosperous. With their thriving bean product business, they were making substantial profits. It was rumored that they planned to build a large house and courtyard by the end of the year, and acquire some fields. With such backing, Ms. Niu dared not flaunt her status as the mother-in-law. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1027, Two Faces. It was amusing that when Xiao Xian accompanied Xiao Yunduan to the capital for the examination, Ms. Niu and second uncle were constantly making sarcastic remarks from outside. They would mock the first branch of the family for their recklessness, questioning how they could allow Xiao Xian, a woman, to venture out with a man. Or perhaps they wanted to take the examination themselves. They believed it would bring bad luck if a woman joined them. It was already surprising enough that she wanted to participate in the examination at all. While others might not have been familiar with Xiao Yunduan's character and abilities, they were from the same village. Being an intermediate recommended candidate was already an impressive achievement. It was like being an advanced incense burner. The intermediate provincial champion had been a stroke of luck and happenstance. Becoming an advanced scholar was no easy feat in the vast realm of Great Qin. Numerous scholars and young talents hailed from scholarly and prestigious families. They had been groomed for greatness from a young age, so naturally, they were more accomplished than Xiao Yunduan. As for Xiao Yunduan, it would be best for him to abandon such thoughts to avoid disappointment. When these words reached the first branch of the Xiao family, Ms. Fong sneered and pretended not to hear them. She maintained control over the family, forbidding any internal disputes regarding this matter. If someone dared to bring it up in front of them, they would retaliate, saying, "If you hold such contempt for my brother, why don't your children stop attending the school that he sponsors?" The person in question was taking advantage of others and resorting to snide remarks. It was evident that they had ulterior motives. However, since Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan were not present at home, Ms. Feng decided not to involve herself and dismissed the matter. Furthermore, arguing with others would be futile. They had to rely on Xiao Yunduan's performance. Once Xiao Yunduan achieved success in the examination, his family would be proud and prove those detractors wrong. If he failed to qualify for the intermediate examination, what would be the point of engaging in arguments at this stage? Naturally, Ms. Feng didn't pay much attention, even if her son didn't pass the intermediate examination. Ms. Niu and second uncle were correct about one thing. There were numerous scholars throughout the entire Daqing kingdom, so it was not uncommon for their son to have failed the intermediate exam twice. However, their choice of words was distasteful and unpleasant. On the other hand, Ms. Feng had immense faith in her son. She firmly believed in his capabilities, and was convinced that he would undoubtedly succeed in the intermediate examination. To their astonishment, Xiao Yunduan emerged as the top scorer. The top scorer. He ranked first among all the scholars. How many individuals could claim such a distinction? Only one. When the news arrived from County Magistrate Qiao, Ms. Feng couldn't contain her joy. She was left speechless, and the entire first branch of the Xiao family was overwhelmed with excitement. The land officer and the elders in the family were moved to tears. They showered him with endless praise and promptly opened the ancestral hall to announce this momentous news. Consequently, the first branch of the Xiao family became the most esteemed family in the village. Nobody dared to harbor jealousy toward them anymore. Those who were envious were simply unworthy of such feelings. Conversely, many people began to admire their family. He was the illustrious Primus. Now that he held an official position, he might even rise to become a high-ranking official in the future. Thus, when Ms. Feng encountered Ms. Niu on one occasion, she taunted her with an air of arrogance, leaving Ms. Niu so infuriated that she departed without uttering a word. Unexpectedly, both Ms. Niu and second uncle displayed shamelessness by pleading with eldest uncle. They admitted their wrongdoing, expressed their reluctance to cause any further trouble, and vowed to respect their elder brother. They humbly implored him to restore familial harmony as it had been before. Ms. Niu slapped her own face and scolded herself for what she had done wrong, and for turning over a new leaf. Second Unli burst into tears and said that it was all his fault in the past, and now he knew that he was wrong. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1028. Reject. Eldest uncle couldn't bear to witness his parents crying and begging before him. In a moment of impulse, he agreed to their request. But as he began to express this to Ms. Feng, she interrupted him with a cold smile. "So, you're using Yun Duan's reputation as the Primus to do favors for such a heartless person. You truly embody the role of Yun Duan's biological father. Just take a look at their faces if Yun Duan hadn't made it into the intermediate exam. Don't pretend you didn't hear anything." Eldest uncle furrowed his brow, torn and conflicted. He wasn't angered by Ms. Feng's reprimand. Instead, he let out a sigh and spoke. I understand. But Yunduan has already reached the intermediate level, right? Second brother and the others won't dare to repeat their actions. They merely wish to salvage their reputation. Yes, they're not merely seeking to salvage their reputation. Ms. Feng sneered. They also want to continue their bullying. Eldest uncle choked on his words. Well, you can't. It's not up to you. Ms. Feng retorted coldly. When the time comes, what will you do? Let me make it clear. I won't allow you to use Yunduan's name for this purpose. You'll have to wait for Yunduan's return. You can ask him yourself. If he agrees, I won't object. But if he disagrees, don't even think about it. In my opinion, Ms. Niu and her husband are two-faced and deceitful. They are excessively greedy. With the support of the Yin family, Their two sons are working there and earning a considerable amount of money. Shouldn't they be satisfied? What more do they want? Ms. Fong had worked hard to distance herself from the second branch of the family, and she had no intention of allowing them to enter her home and spew nonsense. She reveled in her freedom and refused to acknowledge their existence. To do so would only invite disaster. Eldest uncle grew slightly irritated. Yunduan listens to you at all. If you want to ask him, go ahead and ask him yourself. But Ms. Fong had no intention of allowing that. Then why don't you reflect on why Yunduan listens to me? Look at what you've done. You're truly praiseworthy. Just ask Dalong, Sanlang, Chi Tao Tao. None of them have any fondness for Ms. Niu and her husband. Not only did the second branch of the family wish to break away, but they even contemplated severing ties with the third branch. You. Eldest uncle grew even angrier. Ms. Fong sneered in response. Yuanduan is the Primus, and he has the final say in our family. Don't bother running to the land officer and the rest of the family. It's futile. If Yuanduan doesn't agree, they'll disregard you. If you truly have no regard for our family and are so heartless, then let's divorce and divide the family. You can go with Ms. Niu and her husband. With those biting words, Ms. Fong stormed off angrily, paying no heed to eldest uncle's thoughts. She was genuinely infuriated. Didn't he understand the true nature of the second branch of the family? He did. Yet he remained soft-hearted. His heart softened, clouding his judgment. He dared to engage in all sorts of shameless acts. She saw right through him. Ms. Fong grew so exasperated that she visited Ms. Niu and second uncle's home the next day, accompanied by her two daughters-in-law. She openly taunted the couple, leaving them greatly vexed. Ms. Niu wished to scold her, but she didn't dare, resulting in her blushing with anger. It was quite amusing to Ms. Fong as well. She had been seething with anger, searching for an outlet to vent, and now she found herself venting it on Ms. Yan. But was Ms. Yan someone who would tolerate such mistreatment? She hadn't done anything wrong, so she couldn't fathom listening to Ms. Niu's insults and weeping to the point where she sought solace at her mother's house. Ms. Niu was so anxious that she couldn't prevent her departure at all. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1029. Not easily offended. The following day, the entire Yan family, including Ms. Yan's parents, brothers, and sisters-in-law, arrived at the doorstep, causing Ms. Niu to tremble in fear, hiding away in her room and refusing to come out. However, she couldn't avoid the Yan family's presence. Unlike Ms. Zhang's family in the past, the Yan family didn't create a scene and approached the situation with reasonableness. Mr. Yan asked Ms. Niu what she had done wrong. What were her mistakes? She also acknowledged that her family held some responsibility, and it would be best if they could point out their errors so that they could guide Ms. Yan in the right direction. After all, Ms. Yan was their daughter, and they would never abandon her. Nevertheless, this matter couldn't be postponed any further. As it stood, only the Yan family had come today. Xiao Erlang and Xiao Sailang were still diligently working at the tofu store's workshop, unaffected by the situation. It had to be acknowledged that the Yan family possessed remarkable tact. They took this opportunity to mention Xiao Erlang and Xiao Sailang. Ms. Niu and second uncle were dumbfounded. Truly, the Yan family was extraordinarily magnanimous. Their business thrived, and the salaries they provided to Xiao Erlang and Xiao Sailang continued to increase. Each of them now earned 5 liang per month, totaling 8 liang combined. In the past, their family couldn't save such a substantial amount of money in an entire year, but now they could achieve it in just 1 month. Without this income, Ms. Niu would go insane, let alone second uncle. Second uncle grew increasingly anxious, even praising Ms. Yan while reprimanding Ms. Niu. Ms. Niu felt a mix of anger and fear, but she had no choice but to admit her mistakes. She forced a smile and claimed that she had been so infuriated that she uttered a few thoughtless words to Ms. Yan, but they shouldn't be taken seriously. Mrs. Yan couldn't be easily deceived. Under her persistent questioning, Ms. Niu had no choice but to change her words and admit that she didn't just make casual remarks but had actually scolded Ms. Yan. She also made a promise that it would never happen again. The elderly couple from the Yan family scolded Ms. Yan once more and instructed her not to throw tantrums in the future. Ms. Yan agreed, and thus the matter was resolved. After having lunch at second uncle's house, second uncle asked Ms. Nyo and Ms. Yan to prepare chicken and steam-cured meat for the guests, and the Yan family returned home. As soon as the Yan family arrived back, Ms. Nyo glared at Ms. Yan, but second uncle immediately pulled her away. He gave her a warning, and Ms. Nyo realized what was going on. Annoyed and frightened, she dared not throw another tantrum at Ms. Yan. She truly couldn't afford to offend her daughter-in-law. Speaking of which, Ms. Nyo and second uncle failed to reconcile with the first section of the family, and became the subject of mockery by many villagers. Aware of Ms. Yan's close relationship with the first section of the family, they hoped that Ms. Yan would intervene on their behalf. However, Ms. Yan politely declined their request. Aunt and sister-in-law, the respect they have for me is based on my own merit. I can't dare to meddle in such matters. If I can't even control uncle's words, how can I wield such influence? It wouldn't be good if aunt and the others became angry with me as well. Ms. Nyo and second uncle were left feeling helpless. Ms. Nyo's fury only intensified. What kind of family is this? Which daughter-in-law wields so much power that I, as the mother-in-law, can't even say anything to her? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1030. She's so precious. What do you mean by right or wrong? Do you think your daughter-in-law can argue with her mother-in-law? Look at other families. The mother-in-law is always right. Find a daughter-in-law for second brother and get him married, or I will make Ms. Yan furious. Second uncle shot her a stern look and snapped. Shut up. You're the one who talks too much. Ms. Yan did nothing wrong, so why are you scolding her? I've told you that the Yan family is not to be messed with. Ms. Nyo remained unconvinced. So what if she did something wrong? I am her mother-in-law. So what if I scolded her for no reason? Which daughter-in-law doesn't feel unjustly treated? Which family doesn't have conflicts? She's too spoiled. She's too delicate. Enough. If you ruin second and fourth's relationship, do you think they won't blame you? Let's not discuss this further. It costs us money every month. Are you willing to bear that? Ms. Nyo didn't want to leave, so she didn't dare to offend Ms. Yan. Tell second brother that you're his daughter-in-law. Hurry up and let him know that you're his daughter-in-law. Otherwise, we can't go on like this. Since then, Ms. Nyo held a grudge against Ms. Yan, and Ms. Yan no longer made an effort to please Ms. Nyo as before. Ms. Yan finally understood and couldn't help but feel disheartened. Some people were simply like that. No matter how well you treated them, they wouldn't change. If that was the case, why should she continue trying to please her? As long as her own family was there, this mother-in-law couldn't do anything to her. In comparison, people like elder aunt were the best. Without a doubt, even if her third sister-in-law did not come from a wealthy family, aunt still treated her well. If her third sister-in-law were to become her mother-in-law's daughter-in-law, she might not fare much better than her own brother and sister-in-law. When Xiao Yunduan returned to the village to pay respects to his ancestors, Ms. Nyo and second Li, who had given up hope, felt a glimmer of excitement. Second Li pretended to be drunk and pleaded with Xiao Yunduan in front of everyone, hoping to mend their relationship. Eldest uncle blushed and looked at Xiao Yunduan with pleading eyes. Xiao Yunduan casually responded, Second Li is just talking nonsense after having too much to drink. Third brother, please help him rest. How can we involve the land officer, the chief, and the elders in making a decision? What does second Li think of our family? Eldest uncle's face turned even redder. Xiao Sanlang grew irritated. He nodded and instructed two men from their tribe to escort second Li away, before anything else could be said. Xiao Yunduan smiled at the land officer and the others, as if nothing had happened. He continued enjoying the food and drinks, and everyone followed suit with smiles. Soon the incident was forgotten and put behind them. Deep down, everyone understood. Mr. Primus was indeed an exceptional scholar. He was steadfast in his principles and had a clear understanding of the situation. It was impossible to threaten him. It was clear that the fault lay with Mr. Primus. The Xiao couple had crossed a line. Even before Mr. Primus' return, they had spread gossip about him. Their actions were unforgivable. Now it was too late for them to seek favor. Did they really believe that everyone should give in to their demands and let them do as they pleased? At this point, the second section of the family had lost all hope of reconciling with the first section of the family. During the banquet, Xiao Meiling and her husband, who were already married, also attended to offer their congratulations. The first section of the Xiao family treated them like any other relatives, without any special treatment. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1031 Fighting. It was ridiculous that Xiao Meiling still hadn't realized her position. She felt neglected by the first section of the family, and her face darkened throughout the event. She had expected someone from the first section to acknowledge her after making such a scene. However, not even a servant like Chunyu bothered to pay her any attention. Chunyu simply pretended not to see her and warmly greeted other guests with a smile. Xiao Meiling felt even more aggrieved. She wanted to create a scene but didn't dare to do so on such a significant occasion. If she dared to cause trouble, the first section of the family would undoubtedly kick her out. That would be even more embarrassing. Furthermore, with Xiao Yunduan as the Primus, she felt a sense of fear. In frustration, Xiao Meiling stomped her feet and returned home in a fit of anger, thinking that ignorance is bliss. Upon seeing her, Ms.Yan exclaimed, "What are you doing here? Did someone bully you?" Her expression hinted at causing trouble. Xiao Meiling burst into tears and cried, "The first section of the family looks down on me. They all look down on me and ignore me." Ms.Yan cursed and sighed. That family is so snobbish. They treat poor relatives with disdain once they achieve success. Don't feel wronged. It's not worth it. Let's go over there. Humph, if they don't care about us, let's eat more. It's better to feast until they're left with nothing. Meanwhile, Xiao Meiling was extremely frustrated. When she returned to her in-laws' house, nosy women would inquire about the first section of the family. What could she possibly say? The tension between the two families was widely known in the village. She even suspected that the first section had deliberately spread the matter. This resulted in people offering sympathy, making snide remarks, and even her mother-in-law treating her in a similar manner. It was infuriating. Xiao Meiling couldn't help but blame her parents. If it weren't for them, she wouldn't have ended up in this situation. Xiao Xian had her mind set on the expansive piece of land in the suburban province. With flourishing crops like longan, lychee, and mango, she eagerly wanted to visit the provincial city and take action. She requested Yuezheng Xiao to arrange for someone to purchase seedlings from the south and start planting them. Time was of the essence. If she planted the seedlings and utilized her superpower, they would likely grow exceptionally well. Her plan was to return in mid-September or early October to check on these industries again. She would use her superpower to strengthen their growth and stay during the winter. If they managed to thrive successfully, it would bring peace of mind for the following year. After several years of employing her superpower consistently, once it reached a stable level and fully adapted to the local environment and climate, it would create a new breed. Even without relying on her superpower, the crops would likely grow, blossom, and bear fruit splendidly. This was the most desirable outcome. Xiao Xian had a strong belief that it could become a reality. Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan decided that the entire family should accompany them to the province, making the trip lively. Xiao Yunduan also agreed, recognizing the convenience of having a house in the province where they could stay. The whole family cheered up upon hearing their decision. The province was a distant place filled with prosperity, vibrancy, and an abundance of delicious food and exciting activities. Although they had been there once before, they longed to experience it again. The prospect of shopping brought great joy. This time, all of us will go. Eldest brother and sister-in-law will come along as well. Li Xia and Li Qiu will stay behind to take care of the house. Xiao Xian's words delighted Chunyu and the others. Packing up was a simple task. They only needed a few sets of clothes. There was no need to bring anything else. They had everything they needed at their residence in the provincial city. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1032. Not worthy. Ms. Su had not been there the last time, but now she had the opportunity to go as well. She was filled with excitement, even playfully teasing her youngest son who was not even 1 year old. You're so fortunate. Since your birth, you've never experienced any hardships. Now, you can accompany us to the provincial city and broaden your horizons. Coincidentally, Ms.Yan happened to visit them. As she observed Yang Xiaoni, Tao Tao, and Chunyu engaged in an enthusiastic discussion, envy couldn't help but creep into her heart. Having never been to the provincial city before, Ms.Yan desired to join them. She had heard from Tao Tao and the others about the liveliness and enjoyment one experienced upon returning to the provincial city, and her longing grew stronger. When will I have the chance to go? She wondered. Yang Xiaoni giggled and inquired, Sister-in-law, is there anything you would like to purchase? Should I bring it back for you? Ms.Yan smiled and replied, absolutely. After some deliberation, Ms.Yan began counting on her fingers. I need some face cream. Please get me 5 portions. 1 for my mother and 2 for my sisters-in-law. Fifth sister-in-law, please help me select ones that are both effective and reasonably priced. Also add 2 packets of silk thread. The silk threads available in the provincial city are finer and come in a wider range of colors. Additionally, buy me 3 or 4 pairs of exquisite silk flowers, and the current fashion favors ordinary gingham cloth for clothing. Bring me 5 of those as well. 2 for the elderly couple and 4 for the younger one. If you come across any delectable snacks or stir-fried preserves, please bring some back for me. Yang Xiaoni tallied the items on her fingers and smiled in agreement. Don't worry, I won't disappoint you. With fifth sister-in-law's good taste, I'm confident she'll choose the most suitable ones for you. Ms. Yan nodded, her smile widening. Absolutely. Curiosity got the better of Yang Xiaoni, and she couldn't help but ask, are you buying so many clothes for your father-in-law and mother-in-law? Ms. Yan pursed her lips and whispered under her breath. Give it to them? I don't mind spending so much money, but certain individuals are simply unworthy. I bought those for my own parents. Initially, I was considering not bringing them home if third sister-in-law told anyone about it, but I'll take them to my parents' house instead. Yang Xiaoni was aware of the recent events concerning the second branch of the family. Additionally, she had experienced mistreatment from her own family in the past, so she could empathize with the situation. Letting out a sigh, she remarked, You're right. There are all kinds of people. Some individuals simply don't deserve to be cherished. Fortunately, your family is capable and can handle any situation without fear. Ms. Yan smiled and exchanged a knowing glance with Xiao Xian. If it weren't for fifth sister-in-law, their family wouldn't be in such a favorable position now. She would always remember this kindness. Having purchased the food, Ms. Yan intended to keep what she needed for herself. Ms. Niu wouldn't dare to snatch the food from her own family. At most, they would share it. Besides the dividends, her husband's monthly salary had reached 7 liang. The couple deducted 2 liang and saved the remaining 5. With money in their hands, they didn't have to rely on anyone to fulfill their needs. Naturally, they had no fear of unreasonable demands from their mother-in-law. Not only her husband and second brother, but Xiao Meiling's husband and father-in-law also worked at the Yan family's bean production workshop, earning 2 liang each month. There was no justification for her to be unjustly treated. After discussing their shopping plans, Ms. Yan exchanged a meaningful look with Xiao Xian, conveying her intentions. Xiao Xian called her over with a smile, and they began conversing under the shade of the loquat tree in the yard. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1033. Ms. Yan knows. Fifth sister-in-law, Have you heard that my father-in-law and mother-in-law are looking for a daughter-in-law for my second brother? Ms.Yan asked. Xiaoxian nodded, saying, yes, that's quite common. Ms.Yan let out a sigh and continued, yes. Second brother is still young, but he already has 2 children. Despite that, his family is doing well, and many people are willing to marry him. According to my mother-in-law, even a 15 or 16-year-old girl is willing to become his wife, which makes her feel very proud. But can a 15 or 16-year-old girl truly be a stepmother to her own grandchildren? Xiaoxian replied with a knowing smile. Understanding her point, Ms.Yan said, I can't hide anything from you, fifth sister-in-law. She blushed slightly and continued, on my mother's side, I have a cousin who is a widow. She is about the same age as second brother, and has a kind-hearted and down-to-earth nature. However, she hasn't been lucky. After her husband, the only son in the family, passed away, her husband's clan pressured her to adopt a child around 7 or 8 years old to carry on the family lineage. Think about it, fifth sister-in-law. How can we adopt a child who is already aware of his biological parents? How can he not feel attached to them? Even if we adopt him, it would just be raising someone else's son. My cousin refused, so she returned to her maternal family. While her parents, brothers, and sister-in-law are supportive, relying on them in the future after her parents pass away may not be ideal. Since second brother is looking for a daughter-in-law, my mother wants to propose this idea for her. What do you think, fifth sister-in-law? Ms.Yan knew that Xiaoxian understood the situation. Although the first section of the family had severed ties with the second section, they wouldn't turn a blind eye if something truly happened to the second section. As for the second section of the family, they would undoubtedly be satisfied with their daughter-in-law chosen by the first section. Ms.Yan sought Xiaoxian's opinion because she knew that fifth sister-in-law was clever and had a plan in mind. If she could help, it would be easier for her family to navigate this matter. However, Ms.Yan had no intention of informing her father-in-law and mother-in-law about the proposal. While her father-in-law might be accepting, her mother-in-law would certainly react with anger. If she were to suggest it, it would be met with immediate rejection. On the other hand, second brother was currently occupied with his work in the workshop, and his father and brothers treated him well. If they were to approach him and suggest meeting his potential daughter-in-law, he would likely agree without much hesitation. Once he gave his approval, there would be no issues with their father-in-law and mother-in-law. Xiaoxian hoped that the second section of the family would marry a reliable woman to avoid any potential troubles. After the incident with Ms. Zhang, they couldn't afford to let their guard down. Is your cousin truly a good person? Xiaoxian inquired. Ms. Yan nodded, a smile gracing her face. Of course, I can vouch for her. Xiaoxian smiled, finding reassurance in Ms. Yan's response. It made sense that Ms. Yan wouldn't accept her cousin if she wasn't genuinely good-hearted, considering she would become her sister-in-law upon marriage. I will discuss it with my mother-in-law first, and then I'll let you know, Xiaoxian assured. All right, I'll wait for you, fifth sister-in-law. Ms. Yan replied with a smile. Don't worry, I'll come again this evening. When Xiaoxian relayed the proposal to Ms. Fang, she also believed it was for the best. Ms. Yan desired a good match for Xiao Erlang more than anyone else, so she was likely to support the idea. After delivering the message to Ms. Yan, the first section of the family set off for the province the following day. The villagers couldn't help but feel envious. The first section of the Xiao family had achieved great success, and everyone in their family had gained recognition. Many villagers had never dared to dream of going to the province in their lifetime. Yet the Xiao family went there so effortlessly. Concerned that Ms. Niu might divulge the engagement plans to Xiao Erlang, Ms. Yan decided to tell her mother straight away. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1034, Wife. Mr. Yan and Mrs. Yan graciously invited Xiao Erlang and his brother to their home for lunch. After informing them about the invitation, they requested Mei Qing to come over and meet Xiao Erlang. If he found her interesting, they hoped he would consider settling down. Xiao Erlang found himself tempted by the proposition. He had already given up on pursuing Ms.Yan, determined not to cause her any further trouble. His family couldn't tolerate the torment she had inflicted upon them, and he was concerned that she might lead his children astray. Realizing that he was still young and that his children shouldn't grow up without a mother figure, he understood the importance of eventually getting married. However, he didn't trust his mother's taste in choosing a partner for him. Additionally, he wasn't keen on marrying a girl as young as 15 or 16. He doubted she would be capable of caring for his child. It seemed more reasonable to consider marrying a young widow. After all, hadn't his father remarried? Furthermore, given that the elderly couple from the Yan family had requested to play matchmakers, it felt inconvenient for him to refuse their proposition. Reluctantly, Xiao Erlang agreed to meet Meiqing the following day. On the designated day, Meiqing arrived at the Yan family residence. To Xiao Erlang's surprise, he found himself quite taken with her, and immediately agreed to proceed. Upon returning home, he informed his father, who initially expressed discontent, wondering why his son, with such a privileged background, would choose to marry a widow. He pointed out that there were many suitable young girls available. Hearing Xiao Erlang's explanation, his lack of trust in his mother's judgment and concerns about his own youth and ability to care for a child, his father, second uncle, hesitated. Second uncle also had doubts about Ms. Nyo's judgment, fearing that another woman like Ms. Zhang would cause chaos in the household. After a brief moment of hesitation, seeing that his son was willing, second uncle decided not to voice his concerns any further. However, when Xiao Erlang relayed the news to Ms. Nyo, she exploded in anger. "What did you say? You're going to marry a widow? You disappointing child. You'll be the death of me with your thoughtless decisions." She had recently been upset with the rest of the family, so she saw the opportunity of finding Xiao Erlang a daughter-in-law as a chance to show off. In fact, because of her, many daughters-in-law and women in the village had been currying favor with her and introducing her to their relatives in the past few days. She felt incredibly smug and proud. Therefore, she had been eager to be selective until now. But then, her son actually came and told her that he wanted to marry a widow. A widow. Ms. Nyo felt as if she had been slapped in the face. However, the more she resisted, the more determined Xiao Erlang became. He patiently explained to his mother that he already had 2 children, and marrying a widow would make him more capable of caring for them. It was better than marrying a young girl who was 15 or 16 years old. How could she possibly know how to be a mother? Moreover, at 25 years old, he didn't want to marry someone much younger than him. Furthermore, he had seen Meiqing before and believed she was a genuinely good person. She was the perfect match for him. But no matter what, Ms. Nyo refused to accept it. Xiao Erlang became irritated and decided not to explain any further. In short, he wanted to marry Meiqing. If his mother didn't help him, he would find a matchmaker and make it known that he definitely wouldn't marry the girl his mother chose. Second uncle also scolded Ms. Nyo, reminding her that since Xiao Erlang had set his sights on Meiqing, she couldn't blame his parents in the future and should refrain from interfering. Ms. Nyo grew increasingly frustrated as she couldn't persuade the father and son, so she reluctantly agreed. After all, it was a second marriage, so there was no need to be overly particular. Moreover, Xiao Erlang urgently needed a daughter-in-law to come back and take care of the children, handle household chores, and so on. Meiqing was eager to leave her mother's house as soon as possible, so it truly would be inconvenient for her to stay there any longer. The two sides hit it off immediately. There was a good day at the beginning of next month, so the wedding was set at that time. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1035. Comparison. Ms. Nyo became so despondent that she secluded herself at home for a few days. Ms.Yan secretly reveled in this, but she didn't dare to show her joy openly. They purposely kept Meiqing's relation as Ms.Yan's cousin a secret from Ms. Nyo, fearing that she would reject the proposal if she knew. However, it wouldn't matter if Ms. Nyo found out after Meiqing moved in. They anticipated that her anger would subside within a maximum of 2 days. 3 days after Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan left the village, News arrived that Xiao Lulang had passed the examination and become a cultivated talent. The third section of the Xiao family and Xiao Lulang were elated by this news. However, Xiao Yunduan, the Primus, had just returned to their hometown to pay respects to their ancestors and receive congratulations from everyone. Since the villagers had already seen the Primus before, they were well aware of their accomplishments. While cultivated talents were impressive, they paled in comparison to the Primus. Hence, Xiao Lulang's achievement as a cultivated talent didn't create much of a stir in the village. As the saying goes, one should always fear comparison. Even Ms. Ma, third uncle, and Xiao Lulang himself weren't overly thrilled, let alone the villagers. Had Xiao Lulang achieved this feat earlier, the entire family would have been ecstatic, causing even Ms. Ma to tremble with joy. But now, when she praised the villagers, their reactions were so tepid that some even remarked, "The fifth son of your first section is still the Primus. It will be challenging for your Lulang to make a name for himself." Ms. Ma was infuriated to the point of near collapse. Her anger was so intense that she lost all interest in boasting. She stormed back home and vented her frustration. They are so conceited that they don't even care about cultivated talent masters. They look down on us. She couldn't help but complain further. The first section of the family is utterly despicable. They are everywhere. How did their achievements become a bad thing? It's infuriating. Did Xiao Yunduan do this on purpose? Why did they return to the village to pay respects to their ancestors? I suspect they deliberately did it to cause trouble for us and steal Lulang's limelight. Ms. Ma and third uncle were even more eager than Ms. Niu and her husband to witness Xiao Yunduan's failure in the intermediate exam. They harbored such envy towards him for becoming the Primus. When Xiao Yunduan returned to the village to pay respects to their ancestors, the two of them wished he hadn't shown up at all. However, they couldn't dare to be so disrespectful. Doing so would only make them the subject of even more mockery. The Xiao family's house was adorned with gifts, and the first section of the family, along with Xiao Yunduan, seemed exceptionally grand. Xiao Lulang felt increasingly frustrated the more he observed it. Yet he couldn't avoid the situation and had to endure it. After a long wait, Xiao Lulang had finally become a cultivated talent. However, there was no joy within him when compared to Xiao Yunduan's achievements. Hearing his mother's complaints, Xiao Lulang grew even more irritated, his face darkening. Enough talking about them. If Xiao Yunduan can become an intermediate cultivated talent, then so can I. If he can become an intermediate advanced scholar, then so can I. He vowed that one day, he would surpass Xiao Yunduan and trample him underfoot, making him kneel down and beg for mercy. Ms. Ma, caught up in the excitement, exclaimed, "Absolutely right. Let's not waste our words on them. Lulang is truly talented, far superior to Xiao Yunduan, who relies solely on luck. Lulang, you must earn me the title of Primus too. Let's see who would dare to make sarcastic remarks in this village then." Xiao Lulang's face grew even darker. He shot a cold glance at Ms. Ma and silently retreated to his room, refusing to say another word. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1036, To Province. She was so stubbornly ignorant that he found it impossible to reason with her. Dealing with Xiao Yunduan was already frustrating enough, and now he had to deal with her as well. What did she think being the Primus meant? The Great Qin Empire had countless scholars. It wasn't something that could be easily achieved. Was she trying to console him or mock him? If she weren't his biological mother, he would almost suspect that she was intentionally making things difficult for him. Why was he always so unlucky? Xiao Yunduan seemed to always have the upper hand. The matter of Xiao Lulang becoming a cultivated talent passed by without much fanfare. Ms. Ma and third uncle had been suppressing their anger, and swearing that being an intermediate cultivated talent wasn't anything impressive. When their own son became a cultivated talent, they would hold a grand celebration feast. They couldn't let the first section of the family steal all the limelight. Unexpectedly, Xiao Yunduan progressed so quickly that the other families, including the cultivated talent, provincial champion, and Primus, were still reeling from the shock when Xiao Yunduan had already reached the pinnacle of scholars. Xiao Lulang was completely overshadowed. If Xiao Lulang had become an intermediate cultivated talent 3 years ago, it would have been remarkable. But now, they couldn't even bring it up anymore. Such bad luck. Upon arriving at the province, Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan began to settle in happily, tidying up their surroundings. Since it was nighttime, Xiao Xian asked Songshi to order 2 tables of food from a nearby restaurant. The dishes at the restaurant were exquisite, with a wide variety of ingredients. They even ordered some special dishes. The 3-cup chicken, soy hoof flowers, meatballs, blood duck, steamed fish head, and more were all delicious. After a long day of travel, they were all feeling a bit tired. After having dinner and chatting for a while, they retired to the room to rest. But for Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan, who had experienced so much, it wasn't a big deal. Once they left the hall, Xiao Yunduan took hold of Xiao Xian's hand. Xiao Xian turned to look at him, and they exchanged smiles. "Darling, are you feeling tired?" "Oh, not at all. Shall we take a leisurely walk back? Maybe even take a detour and explore the garden?" "Sounds lovely." The moonlight cascaded like water, casting a gentle silver glow on the flowers and trees. In the stillness of the night, everything seemed serene and tranquil. With her newlywed partner by her side, this serenity and quietness only amplified. Her heart inexplicably soared, as if she were immersed in a sea of honey. Unbeknownst to her, Xiao Yunduan shifted from holding Xiao Xian's hand to placing his hands on her shoulders, bringing them closer together. Their footsteps gradually slowed until they stopped before a gardenia plant. The flowers and plants in the garden had flourished under the nurturing power of Xiao Xian's wood element. Now, with another touch of her power, they appeared even more vibrant. The hydrangeas, hibiscus, crepe myrtles, gardenias, moonflowers, and beautiful bananas had never bloomed so magnificently. A cluster of jade green leaves adorned with snow-white flowers, each the size of an egg. The layers of petals unfolded gracefully and elegantly, enhancing their beauty under the moonlight. A gentle evening breeze carried a fragrant aroma, filling their lungs. The couple, deeply immersed in their affectionate embrace, felt slightly intoxicated. Xiao Xian reached out to caress the blossoms, a smile adorning her face. "These flowers are truly exquisite." She felt a sense of accomplishment. Having superpowers was truly a blessing. Xiao Yunduan's excitement grew. He leaned down, planting a tender kiss on Xiao Xian's cheek, then gently captured her lips, chuckling. "No flower could ever compare to my beloved wife. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1037, Slightly Guilty. Xiao Xian blushed, her cheeks turning a rosy hue. No flirting." The words made her heart flutter, leaving her in a state of disarray. Embarrassment washed over her, causing her legs to feel weak. Xiao Yunduan chuckled softly and sighed. "We're already married. Why are you so shy? There's no one else here." "That's not the point." Xiao Xian's face grew hotter as she grumbled inwardly. She had expected him to be more gentle and refined when they were in the presence of others, but it seemed that he remained the same when they were alone. Xiao Yunduan smiled again. "I understand. You're not used to it yet. With time, you'll grow accustomed to it." Confusion filled Xiao Xian's gaze as she looked at him. His gentle face drew closer and closer, and before Xiao Xian could react, he kissed her. This kiss differed from their previous gentle ones. It was a fervent invasion, leaving Xiao Xian feeling dizzy and weak. After the kiss, he held her in an intimate embrace. Her lips were slightly parted, and she breathed lightly. Her eyes were watery and filled with confusion, her face flushed. When she looked up and met his smiling eyes, Xiao Xian felt even more embarrassed. There was nowhere to hide, so she sought solace in Xiao Yunduan's arms, burying herself like an ostrich. Xiao Yunduan couldn't help but laugh. "Why are you suddenly so enthusiastic?" Xiao Xian huffed. "Let's go back to the room." Staying any longer would only deepen her embarrassment. She didn't want to hear what else he might say. She wanted to escape. Xiao Yunduan's smile widened. All right, let's head back to the room. Don't worry, my dear wife. I'm not in a rush. Stop saying silly things. Xiao Xian squirmed in embarrassment, trying to free herself. Xiao Yunduan held her tightly, a mischievous smile on his face. Okay, you're not in a hurry, but I am. What's the rush? I'm just eager. Why, you're not allowed to be eager either. All right. No more teasing. Let's go back to our room. Xiao Yunduan scooped her up in his arms and made his way towards the bedroom. Their desire to be intimate with each other was evident. The tenderness gradually turned into passion as they spent the night together. The next day, everyone woke up, feeling even more exhausted after a full night's sleep, except for Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan, who seemed remarkably energized. The others were impressed. Are you guys used to traveling? We can't match your enthusiasm. Xiao Yunduan smiled, while Xiao Xian blushed shyly, feeling a twinge of guilt. Xiao Yunduan handed the invitations to Magistrate Yuezhing Xiao and Xie Jingrong. Since they were here, it was customary to visit various places. Given his current status, it was a matter of etiquette. To their surprise, the Xie family extended a warm welcome, sending an elderly woman to greet them. She announced that they would be hosting a banquet in 2 days and invited Ms. Fang and Xiao Xian as honored guests. Xie Jingrong and Yuezhing Xiao arrived together. Upon seeing Ms. Fang and Xiao Yunduan, they approached for a conversation. Xiao Xian sent word for them to meet later, and both of them agreed with a smile, clearly intrigued. What Xiao Xian wanted to talk about was definitely about how to make money together. The two of them had witnessed her ability to earn money, and were filled with admiration. Needless to say, Yuezhing Xiao had already made a lot of money by cooperating with Xiao Xian, and the Yuezhing family had risen to a higher level. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1038. Nervous. The second-in-command in the provincial business world had always been ambitious and filled with a competitive spirit. He had hoped to one day surpass the Yuezhing family and take over their position. But now, it was clear that the Yuezhing family had far surpassed him. If the second-in-command wanted to catch up with the Yuezhing family, he would need the same stroke of luck as them, meeting people like Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan. Speaking of which, even Madame Yuezhing had to acknowledge that the first section of the family was exceptionally fortunate. One was Xiao Xian, the other was Xiao Yunduan, and the third was brimming with countless business ideas. With one becoming the Primus, their future was promising, so it was wise to maintain good relations with them. Ms. Fang felt anxious as she discussed with her daughters-in-law. I've never been to the Xie family before. They seem very dignified. Is it appropriate for me to attend? I don't know much, and I don't want to embarrass myself. How about I don't go? Miss Chiao, you can go. Take Tao Tao with you and let her have the experience. Ms. Su and Yang Xiaoni nodded in agreement. The sisters-in-law were initially nervous, afraid that their mother-in-law would insist they come along. To be honest, although they were curious about the wealth of the Xie family and wanted to see it for themselves, they were also apprehensive. It would be terribly embarrassing if they were ridiculed. They believed it would be better if they didn't attend. Xiao Xian smiled and spoke up. Mom, Tao Tao and I will accompany you. Sister-in-law and third sister-in-law can choose not to go, but you must attend. First, Madame Xie specifically invited you, so it's important that you go. Don't underestimate yourself. You're the mother of the Primus now. Who would dare to look down on you? Even in the capital, almost everyone would have to show you respect. So don't worry about the Xie family. We should just go. Since the Xie family extended the invitation, they won't criticize or give you a hard time. Xiao Xian was well aware of the Xie family's close ties with the capital and their extensive networks. They must have known about the imperial censor's impeachment of Xiao Yunduan, and how Emperor Qi Xian reprimanded the censor for his actions, showing support for Xiao Yunduan. They would also be aware of Xiao Xian's role in saving the peony flowers, which symbolized Xiao Yunduan's connection to the late Empress Dowager. That's why the Xie family held the Xiao family in high regard. leading to first Madame Xie's invitation to Ms. Fang. Otherwise, such an invitation might not have come to fruition. Considering the Xie family's current status, even though Xiao Yunduan was the Primus, he wouldn't hold much importance to them. Hearing Qiao Xian's words, Ms. Fang felt less nervous, but she still hesitated. Can I really go? Of course. There will be many more occasions like this in the future. Qiao Xian replied with a smile. My husband and I might have to invite you, Tao Tao, and sister-in-law to accompany us to the capital someday, so we can have fun and entertain others. Yang Xiaoni and Ms. Su became excited. To the capital? The capital. Fifth sister-in-law, is that true? Ms. Fang couldn't contain her joy upon hearing Qiao Xian's words. She smiled and said, The capital? That's the emperor's domain. I can't even dare to dream about it. You're still young. If you want to go and see, I'll support you. Qiao Xian smiled. It's hard to say. It might be possible in the future. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1039, Please help. Ms. Fang wore a contented smile, feeling an overwhelming sense of happiness. After engaging in a pleasant conversation for a while, Ms. Fang let out a sigh and made the decision to depart. Considering the host's proactive invitation and the formal announcement they had made, it would be impolite for her to decline. Not attending would convey a sense of disrespect. Although she felt a bit anxious, she reassured herself that she would simply advise her daughter-in-law to speak and behave modestly. It would only require half a day of her time as a guest. On the other hand, Tao Tao felt quite delighted. She had visited the Yuezheng family on several occasions, spending time with Qiao Xian and the others, and had gained extensive knowledge about lipstick. Her confidence and cheerful demeanor were evident. Furthermore, her brother held a high position, and her sister-in-law was financially successful. Her family was affluent and self-assured. No matter where she went, Tao Tao carried herself with a resolute confidence. After finalizing the agreement, Qiao Xian proceeded to the study to locate Xiao Yunduan and the others. Xiao Yunduan greeted Qiao Xian with a smile. I was about to send someone to find you. Qiao Xian responded with a smile. I had a feeling you would. After exchanging pleasantries, they shifted their focus to the matter at hand. Qiao Xian had been pondering over the dragon fruits and papayas located outside the city, so she inquired about them. Upon hearing her question, Yuezheng Xiao and Xie Jingrong exchanged glances and broke into smiles. Xie Jingrong chuckled and replied, The fruit trees in the southern region are quite remarkable. Brother Yuezheng invited me to take a look, and I must say, the dragon fruits and papayas are thriving and distinct. Indeed. Their laughter filled the room. Qiao Xian comprehended the stark contrast between the papayas and dragon fruits and the fruit trees in the northern region. One grew tall with abundant fruits at its top, while the other thrived with an extensive network of roots. Those who had never witnessed it before might not find it particularly rare or novel. Yuezheng Xiao spoke with a smile. The papayas and dragon fruits have grown remarkably large, and they should ripen soon. I've deployed patrols in the area, and many business owners have requested reservations. Qiao Xian felt a twinge of embarrassment. I apologize for the trouble I've caused. Third brother, please find a trustworthy manager and hire some workers for us. The orchard was unrelated to the Yuezheng family. It belonged solely to Qiao Xian. Yuezheng Xiao nodded and replied with a smile. That's reasonable. I'll make the arrangements promptly. If you ever need anything in the future, just come to me. Qiao Xian nodded and smiled, saying, Of course, I will definitely seek your assistance. As straightforward individuals, they swiftly settled the matter. Qiao Xian expressed her desire to plant not only papayas and dragon fruits but also lychees, longan, mangoes, citrus fruits, grapefruits, bananas, and other saplings in the south before they entered the capital. She personally covered all the expenses. The cost of hiring labor could be treated as an additional investment. What Qiao Xian needed was time, but she lacked personnel to utilize. While the Zhang village and her own family had some people to spare, They were unable to oversee an entire province. Yue Xiao readily agreed and mentioned that he would stay for a maximum of 20 days, asking Xiaoxian if it was feasible. If it wasn't, he could extend his stay by 2 or 3 days. His subordinates were willing to pay double the labor fee for an extended period of over 10 days. Xiaoxian, eager to arrive as soon as possible, nodded with a smile. Xie Jingrong and Yue Xiao trusted that Xiaoxian had her own methods of cultivation, so they didn't inquire further. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1040 Plan. This fell under the category of exclusive and confidential manuals, not to be easily shared. Both of them held a great interest in the local fruits that could be grown, particularly lychees, longan fruits, and the like. As long as they could be planted and casually savored, they were content. Xie Jingrong mentioned to Xiaoxian, "By the way, my servant obtained some seedlings recently. They say the fruits are both sour and sweet, and they're not available anywhere else. I wonder what they are. Would you like some tomorrow?" Xiaoxian's curiosity piqued, and she happily nodded. "Of course, I want to taste all the fresh fruits I've never encountered before." Xie Jingrong nodded in agreement. Once the suburban fields were secured, Xiaoxian wouldn't need to worry about anything else. There was an ample supply of cassava powder and creeping figs. Yue Xiao and Xie Jingrong always managed to acquire various fresh fruits and milk. Nearly 10 dessert shops were flourishing and running smoothly. Yue Xiao initially believed it was just a small venture with limited earning potential, but he was in for a surprise at the end of the month. During the peak season, the monthly profits of the shops exceeded 50,000 liang. That meant they would earn at least 400,000 liang in a year. He and Xiaoxian each received 40% of the total income, amounting to over 150,000 liang, while Xie Jingrong received 20%, roughly 70,000 to 80,000 liang. The primary reason was that the raw materials didn't account for a significant portion of the costs, and not everyone possessed the skill to create these delicacies. Since they were the sole proprietors without any other branches, they reaped the profits. It was a shame that obtaining milk wasn't easy. To acquire milk, they would need to establish a dairy farm. However, various sugary desserts relied on milk, as it enhanced the flavor. Otherwise, Yue Xiao would have considered opening a branch in another city. Even so, the Xie family had expanded their ranch and were actively discussing the possibility of opening 2 or 3 shops in a bustling city that could be reached within a day. Yue Xiao contemplated the idea of running to the south in the future to establish a ranch or open a shop elsewhere. This business was remarkably lucrative and required low investment. It would be foolish not to pursue it. Yue Xiao and Xie Jingrong stayed for lunch and bid their farewells in the afternoon. As evening approached, Yue Xiao arrived to deliver money to Xiaoxian. Payments for tea leaves, lipsticks, silver fungus, and sugar water shops were still pending. However, every time she acquired goods from the first section of the Shouting Village family, she would leave a written note and take as many items as possible, duly signed and acknowledged by the Xiao family. The actual value of these goods remained unknown to the first section of the Xiao family. The amount of money involved was substantial, prompting Yue Xiao to keep it a secret from the rest of the family. Coming from a merchant family, he had been involved with money from a young age. He had witnessed how wealth could influence people's intentions and desires. He understood the allure of riches better than most. A sum of 100 or even 1,000 liang might not be significant, but 10,000 liang would likely test one's limits. And what about 70,000 to 80,000 liang? Or even more than 100,000 liang? How many individuals could resist the temptation? Yue Xiao was surprised that no one, not even Ms. Fang, had ever inquired about it. Everyone seemed to accept it as a matter of course. Yue Xiao had pondered over how to respond to their questions, but none of his ideas proved useful. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1041, Wealth. Yue Xiao held great admiration for the Xiao family. They truly deserved it. They were a good family, and their character was commendable. If it had been anyone else, how could they resist asking? Who in the world wouldn't be interested in silver? As Yue Xiao, Xiao Xian, and Xiao Yunduan went through the accounts, they discovered that Xiao Xian had amassed a total of 78,000 liang, not including the 10% of the tea bricks that the Yue family would provide at the year's end, to be paid later. So Xiao Xian now possessed 340,000 liang. It was an immense fortune. There was a high probability that many impoverished duke mansions in the capital would not be as wealthy, let alone the ancestral mansion that had been passed down through generations. Xiao Xian's joy overflowed, and she beamed at Xiao Yunduan. Darling, we're wealthy once again. Let's purchase more land when we arrive in the capital. Xiao Yunduan smiled and replied, certainly. Xiao Xian had essentially been the one earning the money. His family's assistance was limited, so he naturally wouldn't interfere. Yue Xiao chimed in with a smile. Buying land in the capital isn't easy. There are numerous noble families and prominent business clans. Since you're new here, it's best to keep a low profile and not draw attention to yourselves. He chuckled helplessly. From my perspective, sister-in-law's ability to earn money is truly remarkable. She's truly outstanding. It hadn't been easy for the Yue family to enter the business scene in the capital. They had attempted it but failed. Instead, they settled for the next best option and invested a substantial sum of money in constructing a road. It took them at least 5 years to establish a solid foundation. Of course, the significant investment in the road and the hard work in the initial stages had been worthwhile. The returns were remarkably generous. Upon hearing Yue Xiao's words, Xiao Xian regained her composure and responded, yes, this is the capital. Yue Xiao glanced at Xiao Yunduan and playfully remarked, it seems like we'll have to hold on to the money for now. When you become a high-ranking official, we can buy a shop and some farmland. Yue Xiao's eyes sparkled with excitement, and he nodded in agreement. Count me in. Xiao Yunduan smiled and replied, well, it seems I still have a long way to go. But don't worry, that day will come. The three of them shared a laughter. Xiao Xian spoke up saying, actually, it doesn't matter if we can't achieve much in the capital. Let's not put unnecessary pressure on ourselves. Xiao Yunduan smiled warmly. My understanding wife. I just don't want you to be burdened with excessive pressure. It can be quite exhausting. Xiao Xian expressed her concern. Don't worry, I won't. Xiao Yunduan reassured her. Yue Xiao was speechless, feeling that it was time for him to take his leave. Tao Tao and the others had been compensated for their work, but Xiao Xian, being generous as always, rewarded them with bonuses whenever she received a substantial sum of money. This time was no exception. Everyone received 100 to 300 liang and received red envelopes, allowing them to have extra spending money in the province. Tao Tao and Ms. Fang received the largest shares. Eldest uncle was not given any money. Everything was entrusted to Ms. Fang. Xiao Xian's intention was to give the money to Ms. Fang under the guise of filial piety. If eldest uncle received the money, it would likely be taken advantage of by either the second or third section of the family. As long as it was a benefit, Xiao Xian had fulfilled her duty towards her elders. How they chose to handle it was no longer her concern. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1042, Getting Strawberries. However, there was a concern that eldest uncle might reveal the source of the money to the second and third sections of the family, which could lead to trouble. Although Xiao Xian was not afraid of trouble, she preferred to minimize it. Currently, the second and third sections of the family, as well as other families in the village, knew that their family had earned a significant amount of money, but the exact amount remained a mystery. In the eyes of the villagers, it might be a few hundred liang, and the bolder ones would guess it to be over 1,000 taels. They did not dare to imagine the true extent of their wealth. If they knew that Xiao Xian had tens of thousands of liang in income, and already possessed hundreds of thousands of liang. It would surely astonish them. Ms. Fang was taken aback by the generous red packet from Xian and insisted, "This is too much. Both you and Yunduan need the money, and we have already started paying them for their work, so the salary is not low either. Just give them 10 liang." Upon hearing this, Ms. Su and Yang Xiaoni hesitated to accept it. Xiaoxian smiled and reassured them, "Mom, I know what I'm doing. The Yuezheng family has paid me a substantial amount of money, more than enough for our expenses in the capital. Don't worry about it. You can keep these and use them to buy more food and new clothes. We have enough money, so we should enjoy a better life." Laughter filled the room. Ms. Fang smiled and said, "What are you saying? We're so wealthy. Are you really not short on money?" Xiaoxian nodded, her smile unwavering. "Of course." Ms. Fang sighed with a smile. "Both of you are capable individuals, and I rely on you. Well, since you're so kind, go ahead and let them accept it. But don't make it a precedent that you won't give it to anyone else in the future, and don't blame anyone either." Ms. Su and Yang Xiaoni happily expressed their gratitude and accepted the red packets. Chunyu and the others were also thrilled to receive their own red packets. Yang Xiaoni agreed with Xiaoxian's suggestion, so she and Xiao Sanlang brought 50 liang with them, intending to indulge in delicious food. However, they were pleasantly surprised when Xiaoxian gave each of them 200 liang, totaling 400 liang. Yang Xiaoni immediately planned to spend 200 liang solely on satisfying her appetite. Since they had come this far, they wanted to enjoy a hearty meal. The following day, to Xiaoxian's delight, she received a surprise from Xiejingrong: dozens of strawberry seedlings. Although the strawberries were still small and inexperienced, with careful nurturing, they might not grow as large as the varieties found in the modern world. Nevertheless, Xiaoxian believed that her space power would expedite their growth and enhance their flavor. Eager to begin, she decided to plant half of the seedlings in her space. As for the remaining ones, she would find a couple of flower pots to temporarily house them, bringing them back home to transplant into the garden. Having spent a long time at home with Xiao Yunduan, Xiaoxian anticipated that with a few more superpowers, these seedlings would grow robustly. By the end of the year, some of them might be ready to cover half an acre of land. Though Tao Tao didn't know what they were, if fifth sister-in-law called them strawberries and saw their value, they must be something exceptional. Xiaoxian entrusted Tao Tao with the care of the seedlings. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1043, Guest. Tao Tao happily agreed and asked with interest. Xiaoxian naturally didn't hold back any information. After consulting the spaces system, she understood the characteristics of strawberries and explained them to Tao Tao in detail. Tao Tao had grown more mature and serious compared to before, as she was now 16 years old. At the age of 16, it was time for her to think about finding a partner. However, the better the family's circumstances became, the more challenging it was to discuss family matters. It was a difficult topic. It was hard to predict which family would prove advantageous in the future. After Xiaoxian's explanation, Tao Tao requested assistance and left with the flower pot. These seeds were precious, and she had to take good care of them for fifth sister-in-law's sake. As per fifth sister-in-law's description, the strawberries were red, plump, soft, juicy, and sweet. They had a delightful hint of sourness amidst the sweetness. They were truly delicious. In the blink of an eye, it was time for the Xie family's visit. Ms. Fang felt extremely nervous and believed that none of the clothes she liked were suitable. In the end, Xiaoxian selected an indigo grape pattern dress for her, along with a neat bun and a silver hairpin. The finishing touch was an elegant longevity hairpin, exuding a sense of tidiness, dignity, and elegance. Ms. Fang breathed a sigh of relief and smiled, saying, "Miss Qiao, you are so much more refined than us country bumpkins." Everyone burst into laughter. In the morning, Tao Tao had been asked by Xiaoxian to help with her attire. She tied her hair into a bun, which suited a girl like her, making her appear lovely and intelligent. Her bun was adorned with a freshly bloomed pink rose. A jade hairpin embedded with pearls and rubies held it in place. Her eyebrows were delicately groomed, and she had a light layer of makeup that accentuated her youthful complexion, making her even more radiant and beautiful. Tao Tao wore a light pink cherry blossom embroidered dress, complemented by an ivory white pleated dress. She stood tall, resembling a delicate flower in full bloom. When Tao Tao arrived at Ms. Fang's house with Xiaoxian, Ms. Fang and Yang Xiaoni were taken aback and couldn't stop praising her. Tao Tao blushed and shyly lowered her head. However, a faint smile appeared at the corners of her lips, indicating her obvious happiness. After all, who wouldn't enjoy dressing up beautifully at her age? Once everything was prepared, Chunyu, and Xiaoman departed for the Xie family's residence in a carriage. With them gone, Ms. Su and Yang Xiaoni found themselves with some free time. They persuaded eldest uncle to accompany them for a shopping trip. Xiao Yinduan had been invited as a guest at the local college, so he had already left. Today, First Madame Xia was hosting Ms. Fang, the mother-in-law, and her daughter-in-law. As she was unfamiliar with the customs of Ms. Fang's hometown, she didn't invite many guests, except for 5 close relatives and friends, along with their daughters. The Xie family was truly an aristocratic household, and their mansion was grand and well-maintained. The spacious halls and well-behaved servants made one feel a sense of apprehension, almost afraid to make any noise. If it weren't for Xiaoxian's presence and Ms. Fang's previous experience at the Yuezhing family, she would have been so nervous that she wouldn't know what to do. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1044. That's not all. Tao Tao was also feeling a bit nervous, so she closely followed Xiaoxian. Recalling Xiaoxian's words, she refrained from looking around, despite her curiosity. The maids leading the way could sense the nervousness in everyone, including themselves and the 3 maids. However, this reaction was not surprising. They had never witnessed such an extravagant setting nor visited a family of such high status, so their behavior was understandable. As instructed by First Madam, they refrained from mocking or making fun of anyone. Upon arriving home, Ms. Fang let out a sigh and voiced her concerns to Xiaoxian. That mansion is truly impressive, and the servants are extremely well-mannered and courteous. Yet, I can't shake the feeling that something is off. Maybe I'm overthinking it? Xiaoxian responded with a smile. You're mistaken, my dear. This is simply the norm in wealthy households. You'll grow accustomed to it as you encounter more of them. Ms. Fang chose to believe her words, finding solace in them. She smiled and said, That's reassuring. Perhaps I've been overanalyzing things. I'll adjust to it in due course. After all, families like the Xie family are few and far between. Xiaoxian felt relieved upon calming her down. However, that wasn't entirely the truth. The servants of the Xie family indeed held a sense of superiority. It was evident in their subconscious demeanor, conveying a message that said, You're unfamiliar with the customs and etiquette of the affluent, and we understand your lack of exposure. Though their politeness remained intact, it did create a slight unease. It was no wonder Ms. Fang sought Xiaoxian's opinion on this matter. Consequently, Ms. Fang found the overwhelming politeness of the Xie family's servants somewhat discomforting. She even regretted not finding an excuse for Xiaoxian to accompany Tao Tao instead, as she herself felt slightly unnerved. Upon meeting the first madam of the Xie family, she warmly greeted her daughter-in-law and niece-in-law and politely introduced the other ladies to Ms. Fang. Ms. Fang gradually found herself becoming more comfortable in her surroundings. First Madame Xia was aware that Ms. Fang was unfamiliar with the conversations and topics typically discussed among the elite families in the province. It was safest for Ms. Fang to observe the interactions and drama unfold. Before long, First Madame Xia extended an invitation for everyone to enjoy a show at the Opera House. Upon hearing this, Ms. Fang, who had been contemplating how to spend the entire day, felt a surge of happiness. It was a wonderful idea. She could simply sit back and watch the performance, saving herself the trouble of engaging in conversation. Even if there were discussions, they would likely revolve around specific scenes, making it an easy task. Xiao Xian couldn't help but admire the Xie family. They were undoubtedly a prominent family, skilled in managing social interactions. The only distinction lay in whether they were willing to employ their intelligence. As long as they were willing, there was nothing they couldn't handle. The young girls showed little interest in the show, so the young ladies from the Xie family kindly invited them to explore the garden. With a smile, first Madame Xie turned to Tao Tao and Xiao Xian saying, "Let's go to the garden and have some fun. Don't get bored sitting here." She then entrusted the care of Tao Tao and Xiao Xian to the Miss of the Xie family. Xiao Xian expressed gratitude with a smile and accompanied Tao Tao and the others. Chuanfen and Xiaomen followed suit. The ladies were well aware of how to entertain and engage with Miss Fang, a carefully chosen guest of First Madame Xie. The approach with the young ladies, however, was different. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1045, Exclusion. The young ladies, ranging from around 14 to 16 years old, were indulged and spoiled by their families, lacking a certain moral compass. Furthermore, they possessed limited worldly knowledge, and were accustomed to their own group of close friends and playmates. Consequently, they sought out their familiar companions and engaged in conversation, disregarding Tao Tao and Xiao Xian. Some of them even held the belief that the Xie family was excessively arrogant, considering the Xiao family to be insignificant newcomers. What if the man from the Xiao family became the Primus? Rumor had it that he could only attain a low-ranking position, even if he obtained the title. Without a prestigious background, he would forever remain a low-ranking official. In their lifetimes, they could never hope to compare themselves to the Xie family or penetrate their exclusive social circle. The actions of the Xie family perplexed them greatly. Additionally, since Xiao Xian and Tao Tao did not actively seek favor from them, the young girls grew even more disdainful of their presence. Fortunately, being guests of First Madame Xie, they displayed proper etiquette. They were unlike the Zhao family or Ms. Mi Jr. and her mother from the county, understanding that as guests, they should not overstep their boundaries. They neither liked nor found it troublesome. Nevertheless, Tao Tao felt deeply embarrassed. The young girl possessed a shy nature, and had arrived at the Xie family as a guest with apprehension, fearing the potential ridicule if she made any mistakes. How could she endure such treatment? Xiao Xian firmly grasped her hand, attempting to console her. Pay no mind to them. They are guests of the Xie family, just like us. They hold no significance in our lives. We do not belong to the same social circle, so we merely need to show them some respect. They can play amongst themselves, and we need not engage with them. We have no obligations to flatter them. Don't worry, they won't dare to cause trouble for us. If they do, the Xie family won't let them off easily. They will be forever barred from marrying into the Xie family. They are not foolish. Tao Tao beamed with a smile, feeling much better. She looked at Xiao Xian with admiration and exclaimed, "Fifth sister-in-law, you're the best. You always make perfect sense. I'll listen to you." Xiao Xian found her words amusing and gently tapped her forehead with her index finger. She replied with a smile, "You have such a way with words." Tao Tao blushed and covered her forehead, saying, "No, I truly mean it from the bottom of my heart." Xiao Xian chuckled happily. What did Xiao Xian mean by most fatal? That was it. Why was Tao Tao so adorable? While the aunt and sister-in-law continued their conversation and laughter, Xie Ruifang, the fourth daughter of the Xie family, and her cousin He Jiqing approached and invited them to the pavilion for tea. Recognizing their graciousness, Xiao Xian accepted with a smile and left with Tao Tao. Observing the prosperity of the Xie family, Tao Tao let out a sigh of relief. She then recollected Xiao Xian's words. Yes, she wasn't here to seek assistance, so why should she feel ashamed? Her confidence grew stronger. In the pavilion, most of the girls engaged in lively conversations and laughter. As Xiao Xian had anticipated, the Xie family held the Xiao family in high regard. Although the girls didn't fully understand the situation or think much of it, They dared not cause any trouble. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1046. Looking for someone. Some of the girls even smiled and greeted Xiaoxian and Taotao. Xiaoxian noticed that Taotao was doing well and engaging in conversation with the Miss of the Xie family and her two sisters. Taotao seemed a bit shy, but she was managing fine, which relieved Xiaoxian. However, when she glanced back later, Xiaoxian realized that Taotao was no longer in the pavilion. Xiaoman, who had been following Taotao, was also nowhere to be seen. Surprised, Xiaoxian inquired with a smile when she spotted the fourth daughter of the Xie family playing chess with someone else. Miss Xie was engrossed in her competitive chess match and paid little attention to Xiaoxian. She threw a glance in Xiaoxian's direction while still focused on the chessboard and replied with a smile. Did they go to the garden? Sister Lin and the others mentioned wanting to play games on the lawn, so they might have gone together. Don't worry, our garden is safe, and there are servants everywhere. If they get lost, they can ask for help. The man playing chess with Miss Xie sneered and cast a disdainful look at Xiaoxian. Indeed, it would be impossible to lose someone in the Xie family. Internally frustrated, Xiaoxian remained composed and calmly responded, "She's not familiar with this place, so I hope she's okay." Then she left. The woman playing chess with fourth Miss Xie was taken aback. She sneered softly and commented, "What's so impressive about the Xiao family? They seem incapable and lack proper manners. Quite arrogant, I must say." Fourth Miss Xie smiled but didn't say anything. This guest had been invited by the senior members of the family, while she belonged to the junior branch. It wasn't her place to intervene, although she shared similar thoughts. Xiaoxian realized that every family was alike in some ways. Some connections were destined, while others were not. Taotao had never experienced such a family before, and it seemed that the Miss of the Xie family was unaware of it as well. Well, Taotao would find her own way. Just how vast was the Xie family's estate? Could it span over such a large radius? If Taotao truly wanted to find someone within the premises, she would be able to locate them. Xiaoxian activated her heightened senses and quickly located Taotao. She found her behind a vine-covered rockery, not far from the lake, which she hadn't noticed before due to the obstruction of a flowering tree and the rockery itself. As Xiaoxian approached, she realized that Xiaoman was nowhere to be seen, and even He Jiqing's maidservant was absent. With a sense of urgency, Xiaoxian hastened her steps. Observing the cousin of the Xie family, He Jiqing, she appeared gentle and mild on the surface, but her eyes betrayed a certain mischievousness. Xiaoxian had a hunch that this woman was not easy to get along with, and had ulterior motives. Xiaoxian couldn't bring herself to believe that He Jiqing genuinely wanted to befriend Taotao. It seemed more likely that she intended to exploit Taotao in some way. When Xiaoxian was about 10 meters away from Taotao, she witnessed He Jiqing extend her leg, preparing to trip Taotao. Startled, Xiaoxian exclaimed, "Miss He." He Jiqing was taken aback by the sudden interruption. Hastily retracting her attempt at a cheap shot, she stumbled and almost lost her balance. Taotao, completely oblivious to the danger, was overjoyed upon spotting Xiaoxian. She waved excitedly, her eyes sparkling. "Fifth sister-in-law, there are so many beautiful koi fish here." Xiaoxian smiled and approached calmly. "Really? Then let me have a look too. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1047. You're mistaken. A flicker of anger passed through He Jiqing's lowered gaze. She looked up with a smile and said, "Fifth Mrs. Xiao, are you here to admire the fish as well? Please enjoy. I'll take my leave." "Wait a moment, Miss He." Xiaoxian smiled at Taotao. "Taotao, go back to the pavilion and find Chunyu. I'll send Xiaoman over as well. It will be time for lunch soon." Taotao was puzzled, but she always followed Xiaoxian's instructions, so she nodded with a smile and obediently left. Xiao Xian directed a sharp gaze at He Jiqing. Initially composed and gentle, He Jiqing slowly grew increasingly irritated and embarrassed. She asked in a gentle tone. "Fifth Mrs. Xiao, what's with that look in your eyes? I am unaware of how I have offended you." Xiao Xian stated. "Tao Tao did nothing to offend you, Miss He, so why did you try to trip her just now?" "Fifth Mrs. Xiao, be cautious with your words," He Jiqing retorted indignantly. "I didn't do such a thing. You must have seen it incorrectly." Xiao Xian smiled. "There is no one else present, so there is no need for pretenses, Miss He. I saw it clearly, so I am not mistaken." "Fifth Mrs. Xiao, you need evidence to support your claims. If you continue to slander me like this, you can deny it, but I have a habit of getting to the bottom of things. Since you refuse to speak the truth, I can only bring this matter to eldest young Master Xie's attention. I believe someone as astute as him can address my concerns." Xiao Xian discerned that He Jiqing was quite calculating, and so was Xie Jingrong. In other words, He Jiqing was skilled in manipulating the emotions of Madame Yuezheng, the other madams and the ladies, but she would find it difficult to manipulate someone like Xie Jingrong. Xiao Xian was merely attempting to intimidate her. She mentioned Xie Jingrong because he was the person she was most familiar with in the mansion, and was known for his intelligence. She had no intention of blowing this minor incident out of proportion. However, for some reason, He Jiqing's expression changed upon hearing those words. Despite returning to her composed demeanor, Xiao Xian still observed He Jiqing closely. "You're accusing me falsely. Cousin isn't present, so why are you using him as a basis to criticize me?" Xiao Xian chuckled. "Oh, I understand him quite well, and he is remarkably intelligent. As I mentioned before, I can't afford to overlook any details. It doesn't sit well with me if I don't have a clear understanding of everything. I genuinely want to know what my sister-in-law has done to offend you. It would be easier to make amends if I know the reason. Wouldn't you agree? I haven't done anything of the sort. Miss He am not blind." He Jiqing unconsciously tightened her grip on the embroidered handkerchief in her hand, seething with anger. This was why she disliked engaging with individuals from smaller families who lacked proper etiquette. They were shameless and ignorant of their boundaries. Any other young miss or young madam would be left speechless in such a situation without any evidence. No matter how indignant they felt, they could only endure it. However, this impudent person didn't care about such norms. A person like her was capable of anything, solely concerned with her own happiness while disregarding everything else. Since Xiao Xian had made that statement, He Jiqing believed that she would indeed follow through. She had been keeping a close eye on this cousin, which allowed her to learn that he was on friendly terms with the third son of the Yuzheng family, and the Primus of the Xiao family. Moreover, he had visited the Xiao family multiple times, making him quite familiar with Xiao Xian. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1048. Threat. It was no surprise that this individual dared to be so arrogant. He Jiqing clenched her teeth and decided to reveal half of the truth. Since Xiao Xian wouldn't listen to her, she had no choice but to say something. She couldn't risk whether or not Xiao Xian would seek out her cousin. "I didn't intend to harm her. I wanted to trip her up, but I had no intention of causing her harm. I would have jumped in to save her." Xiao Xian widened her eyes and regarded her as if she were a fool, as if to say, "Do you think you'll believe such nonsense?" He Jiqing felt a twinge of embarrassment. Even if she were a bystander, she would find herself perplexed, let alone Xiao Xian. He Jiqing took a deep breath and had no choice but to continue explaining. "As you know, I am a cousin of the Xie family, and my family is truly, well, I have no desire to return there whatsoever. However, something happened recently, and my grandaunt intended to send me back. I was genuinely worried and scared. Since you are guests today, I thought that if a guest were to fall into the water and I were to fall ill as a result, my grandaunt and the others would surely abandon the idea of sending me back. I really thought of it at the last moment. I admit that I intended to use Miss Xiao, but I certainly didn't mean to deliberately harm her. Moreover, there are numerous servants present in the garden today. If I were to fall into the water and call for help, someone would arrive promptly. Nothing would happen. This is my fault. I shouldn't have attempted to exploit Miss Xiao for my personal concerns. I apologize to you. I'm sorry. Please, Fifth Madam Xiao, be forgiving. Considering that Miss Xiao is unharmed, let this matter be and refrain from mentioning it to anyone else. Can you promise me that, Fifth Madam Xiao? Xiao Xian's gaze turned serious. She didn't believe everything He Jiqing said. Perhaps some of it was true, but it certainly wasn't the whole truth. If her relationship with Xie Jingrong were ordinary, Xiao Xian might have chosen to turn a blind eye to the situation. But that was not the case. There was something amiss with He Jiqing. Why did Madame Lady Xie of the Xie family want to send her back home? Why was it necessary for her to stay within the Xie family? The moment Xiao Xian mentioned Xie Jingrong's name, He Jiqing couldn't contain herself, revealing her deep concern for him. Could it be Xiao Xian's eyelids twitched? Could it be that Madame Lady Xie of the Xie family wanted to send He Jiqing away because she held an interest in Xie Jingrong? It wasn't an implausible notion. Xie Jingrong was an elegant young master, and it was natural for his cousins to be fond of him. Therefore, it seemed unlikely that He Jiqing's intention was to make Tao Tao fall into the water, save her, and feign sickness. She was likely targeting Xie Jingrong. By saving a guest of the Xie family from drowning, she prevented a potential disaster within the Xie family. As the sister of the Primus, her act had safeguarded the reputation of the Xie family and averted trouble. From this perspective, she appeared deserving of marrying Xie Jingrong. If He Jiqing pursued marriage with Xie Jingrong for this reason, how could the Xie family refuse? To refuse would be seen as ungrateful and callous. Xiao Xian couldn't be certain if her speculation was accurate, but even if it wasn't entirely accurate, it wasn't far from the truth. Perhaps this was only one aspect. Miss He likely had other means of support. With these thoughts in mind, Xiao Xian felt a compelling need to inform Xie Jingrong. If Xie Jingrong were to be deceived by such a woman and coerced into marrying her, it would be an immense tragedy. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1049. Leaving the Xie family. Xiao Xian pondered for a moment before speaking to He Jiqing. Leave the Xie family within 3 days, and I'll pretend that today's incident never happened. I won't disclose anything to anyone. He Jiqing stared at Xiao Xian in disbelief, unable to contain her frustration any longer. Fifth Mrs. Xiao, you're being excessively nosy. Her grand-aunt was Madame Lady Xie, and as a proper cousin of the Xie family, she had no say when the family decided to send her away. But Xiao Xian was someone who had no personal stake in the matter. Xiao Xian replied, exactly. Miss He, consider it my intentional meddling. He Jiqing couldn't help but exclaim, what does this have to do with you? Miss He, let's just say I have a habit of being nosy. He Jiqing fell silent, her gaze fixed on Xiao Xian. As a clever individual, she soon realized that Xiao Xian might have picked up on something. Gradually, the way He Jiqing looked at Xiao Xian began to change. Startled by this unexpected development, Xiao Xian regained her composure and met her gaze calmly. In that moment, their eyes locked, and a silent understanding seemed to pass between them. She knew. He Jiqing knew that Xiao Xian had figured it out. A magical unspoken connection formed between them. He Jiqing's face turned red, feeling a mix of embarrassment and relief. But now that Xiao Xian was aware, and she didn't want to lose this person, she might as well confide in her. Fifth Madam Xiao, help me. Yeah. Xiao Xian was genuinely taken aback. She hadn't anticipated that He Jiqing would attempt to involve her in her schemes so abruptly. She couldn't help but find it somewhat admirable. When the time came to go all out, this girl showed no hesitation. As friends of eldest cousin, I can speak candidly to you. I genuinely care for eldest cousin. I may not possess the same background, talent, or looks as him, but I believe we are compatible. If 5th Madam Xiao assists me, I will certainly reciprocate in the future and repay your kindness. 5th Master Xiao has made remarkable progress in his career this year and has entered officialdom. He still has a bright future ahead. You have been to the capital before, so you must have witnessed it. The capital is filled with influential individuals, and there are countless low-ranking officials striving to climb the ranks. However, how many of them actually succeed? Without a strong background or connections, it becomes even more challenging to ascend to greater heights. If 5th Madam Xiao lends me a helping hand today, you won't lose out. Qiao Xian found herself both amused and annoyed. Madame Qiao had acted this way in the past, as had the Qiao family, the Tian family, and even the cousins standing before her. They all made similar claims in front of her and Xiao Yinduan. They exuded confidence, their words growing more grandiose with each passing moment. It was as if Xiao Yinduan would never be able to achieve greatness on his own. Qiao Xian wasn't so narrow-minded as to believe that one had to rely solely on oneself without any allies or connections, but there was a saying that people on different paths could not work together. Since their paths diverged, there was nothing more to discuss. For instance, this cousin exemplified such a case. Miss He, you needn't concern yourself with us. I will pretend that I never heard what you said today. Miss He, remember to leave the Xie family within 3 days. This is none of your business. Even if you don't help, you can't obstruct me like this. Qiao Xian responded calmly, because you are not worthy of Mr. Xie. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1050. Why? He Jiqing felt a wave of dizziness and almost let out a curse. I'm not worthy of my cousin? Ha! Who do you think you are? What right do you have to say such things? Qiao Xian replied, it's not about who I am or who you are. What matters is Mr. Xie's own judgment. What do you think he would say about your actions today? He Jiqing seethed with anger and embarrassment. Which esteemed family is without blemish and can pass judgment on others? If 5th Madam Xiao believes that, she's naive. What's wrong with me employing a little trick? I had no other choice. I admit I intended to use Miss Xiao, but I never intended to harm her. Qiao Xian was so infuriated that she burst into laughter. Miss He, you have exploited Tao Tao. A lady, who is a guest, ended up falling into the water, a highly embarrassing situation. What did you do to her? Moreover, Tao Tao is not adept at swimming, and you cannot guarantee that you could save her in time. What if she got injured as a result? Have you ever considered that? No, you haven't. You have used and sacrificed others for your own selfish interests, and you have the audacity to justify it. How shameless can you be? I don't know if esteemed families can maintain their purity, and you don't need to inform me about it. However, this is the first time I have encountered someone so self-centered and heartless, willing to use another person's life for personal gain. How dare you claim that you are worthy of eldest young Master Xie? I think you should give up as soon as possible. Eldest young Master Xie is not someone bound by conventions. He doesn't have any affection for you. Even if you resort to tricks, unless you're confident that you can deceive him, he will never marry you. So, do you have the confidence to deceive him? Qiao Xian's blunt words shocked He Jiqing. A dull ache throbbed in her chest, leaving her too disheartened to utter a word in response. Qiao Xian's words had struck a chord. This is my affair. It has nothing to do with you. You are obstructing my path to be with eldest cousin. Could it be that you have feelings for him? I advise you to give up immediately. At least I still have some hope, but you aren't even worthy of that. He Jiqing was so infuriated by Qiao Xian's words that she couldn't control herself any longer. Qiao Xian didn't respond with the same intensity as she had anticipated. Instead, she regarded He Jiqing with sympathy and said, why must you say such outrageous things? It doesn't change anything. Why force something that doesn't belong to you? This isn't a courtship, it's a lack of self-respect. He Jiqing quivered with anger. What do you know? You know nothing. Giving Qiao Xian a fierce glare, she stormed off. Xiao Xian's eyes flickered. She couldn't be sure if He Jiqing had truly heard her or not. But she had given her a deadline of 3 days. He Jiqing pretending to be deaf and mute wouldn't make a difference. If He Jiqing didn't leave the Xie family within 3 days, Xiao Xian would indeed inform Xie Jingrong. How could she not seek justice for Tao Tao, whom He Jiqing had tried to harm? Moreover, now that she was aware of He Jiqing's intentions, she couldn't simply stand by and watch her deceive Xie Jingrong. Xiao Xian turned around and headed back to find Tao Tao. Little did she know that after she and He Jiqing had departed, Xie Jingrong slowly emerged from behind the vine-covered rockery. His eyes flickered, his expression a mix of complexity. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1051 Speech. Xie Jingrong didn't intend to eavesdrop, but he happened to witness He Jiqing and Xiao Xian's conversation by the lake. He Jiqing appeared cunning and gloomy. Xie Jingrong had never held any affection for her, but his grandmother, mother, and sisters seemed to favor her, so he chose not to voice his dislike openly. Instead, he tried to avoid being alone with her whenever possible. However, he hadn't anticipated her audacity. Some time ago, during a half-drunken state after a banquet, he had briefly entertained the idea of playing a prank on her. Yet he quickly realized it was a disrespectful notion and rejected it. Since it involved her reputation, and he hadn't truly suffered any harm, he didn't disclose the incident to anyone. However, he subtly hinted at it to his grandmother. Being perceptive, his grandmother promptly decided to send He Jiqing back to her own home. It wasn't that the Xie family couldn't provide for her, but they couldn't afford to support a wicked cousin. He Jiqing kept stalling, taking advantage of her grandmother's fondness for her, attempting to delay her departure. Yet her grandmother remained resolute. Regardless of the delays, He Jiqing would eventually have to leave. When Xie Jingrong saw He Jiqing with Xiao Xian, he grew concerned that she might harbor ill intentions towards Xiao Xian. Thus he quietly approached her. However, he never expected to overhear such words. A smile crept across Xie Jingrong's face. Even without his intervention, Xiao Xian had managed to unnerve He Jiqing. If it weren't for Xiao Xian, he might never have discovered He Jiqing's true nature, her despicableness and shamelessness. Disgust welled up within Xie Jingrong. The following day, Xie Jingrong sought his grandmother once more. Madame Yuezheng arranged for a car to be prepared, ready to send He Jiqing away the following day. Caught off guard, He Jiqing felt a sense of guilt, but she didn't dare to insist. With anger in her heart, she left the Xie family. She believed that Xiao Xian must have divulged something to Xie Jingrong, which fueled her resentment. When Xiao Xian found Tao Tao and Xiaoman returned, she felt relieved. After a while, servants from First Madame Xie's household invited them to dinner, and they all went together. They spent the entire morning watching the show and discussing the 8 trigrams, which gradually warmed up the atmosphere. Ms. Fong became less reserved and could respond with a smile now and then. After lunch, they listened to 2 more scenes. As it neared 4 in the afternoon, everyone bid farewell one by one. As they left the Xie mansion and settled into the wagon, Ms. Fong and Tao Tao couldn't help but relax, feeling quite tired once they let down the curtain. Ms. Fong immediately turned to Xiao Xian and asked, "Ms. Xiao, what did you think of my performance today? Did I make any mistakes? Will people gossip about me?" Tao Tao too was anxious. "And what about me, 5th sister-in-law? Don't hesitate to tell me." Xiao Xian found their concern amusing and replied, "Don't worry about me or Tao Tao. I have always conducted myself appropriately, so who would dare to laugh at me? Tao Tao, you did wonderfully as well. There's nothing to worry about. We can continue doing the same in the future." "Really?" "Absolutely." "That's good," Ms. Fong said with a smile. "As long as we avoid mistakes, I can relax. But dealing with such matters is truly challenging. Even more exhausting than working in the fields. Oh dear, the fewer such incidents, the better. I can't handle them, honestly. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1052. Preparing to go back. Xiao Taodao grasped the point Xiao Xian made. It's even more exhausting than working in the fields. Working in the fields had never made her feel tired. Xiao Xian suppressed her laughter. I'm not seeking friendship from anyone, so let's be open about getting to know each other. If someone has high standards and wants to make things difficult for us, we don't have to accommodate them. So don't be nervous. Ms. Fong felt relieved and replied with a smile. That's true. As they discussed the wealth of the Xie family, Ms. Fong couldn't help but sigh once again. She had never imagined that such a family could exist in this world. Taotao couldn't help but envy them. No other family could compare to the Xie family. Despite their limited experience, they could sense that this was what a true aristocratic family was like. The following day, accompanied by Xiao Yunduan, they visited the Yuezheng family as guests and spent half a day in the city. Ms. Fong expressed her desire to go to Lingyuan Temple to burn incense and pray, so they all decided to go together. Ms. Fong was concerned about her family, and felt it was best to return home as soon as possible. After all, there were only 2 girls at home, and while staying for 3 or 5 days was fine, it wouldn't be ideal to prolong their absence. Everyone agreed. After a few days in the provincial city, they had eaten their fill, bought what they needed, and indulged in some shopping. They were content, and it was time to return. After Xiao Xian and Ms. Fong paid their respects at the temple, Xiao Yunduan took Xiao Xian to explore the back of the mountain. The lush green pines and bamboo covered the mountains, while the spring water cascaded over rocks. Birds chirped, and flowers swayed in the breeze. The two of them strolled, talking and laughing. Occasionally, Xiao Yunduan would wrap his arms around Xiao Xian, showering her with affectionate kisses, causing her cheeks to blush. As they descended the mountain, Xiao Xian happily held a large bouquet of flowers he had picked for her. It was a sight filled with vibrant colors and beauty. When Yang Xiaoni saw this, she envyingly asked for some to share. But Xiao Xian came up with an excuse to brush it off. Yuezheng Xiao could send word to Shouting Village to inform them when the people who had gone south returned. Xiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan couldn't afford to wait here indefinitely. First Madame understood their limited time, and expressed her wish for them to stay a few more days. After all, it was a rare opportunity for the family to be together in the future. She had already arranged many gifts for Xiao Xian to take back, and urged her to rest at home once she returned to the capital. Xiao Xian nodded, smiling in agreement. Upon their return to the village, Ms.Yan came to visit them. Yang Xiaoni offered her one of the items she had purchased as a gift. Although Yang Xiaoni still owed Ms.Yan 3 liang, Ms.Yan refused to accept the money. She kindly remarked that it was a small favor and didn't warrant repayment. Yang Xiaoni politely declined, expressing her gratitude with a smile. It wasn't that they were greedy for the money, but everyone in the first section of the family was well off and didn't need to be concerned about such small amounts. However, Ms. Yang's reasoning was sound, so Yang Xiaoni graciously accepted it. Yang Xiaoni gave Ms. Yang 2 packets of candied fruits, along with melon seeds and peanuts, which Ms. Yang accepted with a smile. Xiao Xian also presented Ms. Yang with a pair of silk flowers, 2 powder boxes, and a pair of silver bracelets. Since Ms. Yan had always maintained a good relationship with the first section of the family, Ms. Niu, although resentful, recognized the benefits of maintaining a positive rapport. Therefore, she refrained from scolding Ms. Yan over this matter. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1053, Marriage. Regarding the first section of the family, they were grateful to Ms. Yan for providing them with advanced knowledge about various matters. Ms. Yan informed Ms. Fong and Xiao Xian about Xiao Erlang's upcoming marriage. This was the first time Ms. Su and Yang Xiaoni had heard about it, so they were eager to learn more. Yang Xiaoni couldn't help but complain. Finally, second uncle's marriage has been settled. Auntie Nyo keeps talking about finding good and outstanding girls from other families. Why do the girls always get chosen? Ms. Su silently agreed with a smile. In the past, she had been somewhat tempted to introduce girls from her own family to Xiao Erlang. After all, the second section of the family was now living a comfortable life. However, her timid nature held her back, and she never voiced her thoughts. Ms.Yan smiled helplessly and sighed. She was well aware of the kind of person mother-in-law was, but she couldn't openly voice her complaints. Upon hearing that Xiao Erlang's prospective wife was a widow, Yang Xiaoni was so surprised that her jaw almost dropped. Learning that she was Ms. Yanan's cousin, Yang Xiaoni smiled again. That's good, that's good. Since she's an acquaintance, she'll be able to get along well with you in the future. Ms. Fong chimed in with a smile. Exactly. I believe this marriage is the best choice. If Xiao Erlang had married a young girl, she would have been at the mercy of Ms. Nio's bullying. But widows were different. They had experienced the ups and downs of life. With Ms. Yan's support, it would be difficult for Ms. Nio to show off. The second section of the family kept Ms. Nio under control to ensure peace within the household. Observing their conversation, Ms. Su couldn't help but interject. Well, Auntie Nio wasn't satisfied with many people, and she insisted on finding a good daughter-in-law for second brother Xiao. Why did she agree in the end? Ms. Yan smiled and replied. It's fate. My cousin and my second brother met once and fell in love. Even my father-in-law liked her when my second brother expressed his desire to marry her. Mother-in-law initially refused, but she eventually gave in. That was indeed true. Ms. Su decided to let go of her concerns and allowed Ms. Yan to handle everything as she pleased. In Ms. Zu's perspective, what did it matter if the prospective bride was a widow? Was she truly worth her worries and labor? Not fully understanding the meaning behind Ms. Yan's words, Ms. Su simply nodded with a smile. I understand. As she counted the days, she realized that the wedding date was drawing near, with less than half a month remaining. Ms. Nio had already distanced herself from the preparations. Since Ms. Yan had no prior experience with such matters, she felt a bit anxious and turned to Ms. Fong for assistance. She asked Ms. Fong to guide her and help her understand anything she found confusing. After a moment of contemplation, Ms. Fong agreed and advised, just keep it hidden from your mother-in-law and ensure she remains unaware. She had no desire to provoke her further. Ms. Yan readily agreed. It was only much later that Ms. Nio discovered the extent of her daughter-in-law's assistance during Ms. Fang's wedding, which infuriated her to the point of falling ill. Ms. Fong was even more concerned about Tao Tao's family. That night, as she talked with Qiao Xian about Xiao Yunduan, she couldn't help but sigh. Ms. Fong was at a loss about what to do regarding Tao Tao's family. Now that her daughter had grown so capable, she appeared more intelligent and resourceful. Seeing her like this, Ms. Fong couldn't bear the thought of pairing her with a simple-minded country bumpkin who knew nothing. She felt that she would have treated Tao Tao unfairly. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1054. Troubled. It wasn't that no one from the affluent family had come forward to reveal their intention of marriage. Therefore, Ms. Fong hesitated to respond, fearing that she might be wrongly accused. Who in such a family didn't have a suitor or a potential match? Although she could find a promising partner from an ordinary farming family, Ms. Fong still had reservations. While the family was respectable, there was a possibility that her daughter might not be pleased with her background when she attended high school in the future. Furthermore, if the man in question didn't have a stable job or didn't achieve success, her daughter would suffer as a result. What would be the point of marrying such a man? Given that most businessmen were often unscrupulous and driven by impure motives, Ms. Fong couldn't ascertain their true intentions and was apprehensive as a result. Tao Tao's marriage became a quandary. When Ms. Fong voiced her concerns, Xiao Yunduan and Qiao Xian exchanged glances. It was indeed a significant issue. Being Tao Tao's only sister, her family showered her with love and naturally desired for her to have a prosperous and trouble-free life through a good marriage. However, her maiden family worried about her living under someone else's roof. What Ms. Fong hadn't disclosed to Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan was that during the period when they had left home and come to the capital, her eldest uncle had nearly revealed information about Tao Tao's prospective marriage. The couple from the third section had ulterior motives. They had invited her eldest uncle to a dinner and attempted to get him intoxicated. That's when they broached the topic of Tao Tao's family. Eldest uncle was so elated that he readily agreed. They were discussing a well-to-do family in the neighboring village of Ms. Ma's family. Ms. Ma had requested eldest uncle to alter the invitation before informing Ms. Fong, but eldest uncle wasn't foolish enough to disclose it to her the next day. He believed that there was nothing wrong with revealing it. The other party belonged to an affluent family and was an ideal match for Tao Tao. What could possibly go wrong? Besides, how could his third sister-in-law and brother deceive their family? They had made the introduction, so there surely wouldn't be any issues. When eldest uncle informed Ms. Fong about the matter, he boasted about it, emphasizing how well third brother and third sister-in-law treated Tao Tao, and how much they cared for her. Ms. Fong, who had always been skeptical of them, was startled by these words. She hurriedly went to the third branch to confront Ms. Ma, and they engaged in a heated argument, eventually causing Ms. Ma to back down. She had no right to interfere in her own daughter's affairs. Regarding what Ms. Ma was referring to, eldest uncle refused to acknowledge it. If Ms. Ma liked it so much, she should just arrange for her own daughter to marry into that family. Ms. Fong wasn't concerned about whether the family was rich or not. What she knew was that Ms. Ma had ulterior motives, and whatever she had promised couldn't be anything good. As long as she understood this, it was enough for her to make the right judgment. Eldest uncle was merely engaging in casual conversation, and there was no involvement of a matchmaker or an exchange of formal invitations. Ms. Fong made her stance clear, and that should have been the end of the matter. However, that wasn't the case. Ms. Ma held a grudge and secretly wished for something unfavorable to happen. Yet, she still went to discuss the marriage with the Sun family. The Sun family was ecstatic and proceeded to invite a matchmaker to the first section of the Xiao family for the exchange of invitations and marriage discussions. They were eager to marry off Tao Tao as soon as possible. This greatly infuriated Ms. Fong, and she promptly asked the matchmaker to leave, stating that it was all a misunderstanding. What marriage? Absolutely not. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1055, A Mistake. Suppressing her anger, Ms. Fong maintained a pleasant demeanor in front of the matchmaker. Tao Tao had to rely on the matchmaker to find a suitable match, so she couldn't afford to offend her. Who knew what the matchmaker might say otherwise? Initially, the matchmaker was perplexed about how the Sun family could arrange a marriage with the highly recommended Xiao family. They might even become relatives of an advanced scholar in the future. She had approached the situation with skepticism. Upon hearing Ms. Fang's words, the matchmaker breathed a sigh of relief and left without saying anything further. She wasn't foolish and could discern that Ms. Fong was suppressing her anger. The Sun family, truly. This was the first encounter between the matchmaker and the Sun family, so they were taken aback and somewhat enraged. They insisted that they had reached an agreement regarding the marriage, so how could the first section of the family renege on their word? The matchmaker remained unconvinced and couldn't help but inquire. Did recommended Man Xiao's parents genuinely consent to this marriage? The wife of the Sun family retorted. It was recommended Man Xiao's third aunt-in-law who personally informed us that her elder brother agreed. Otherwise, we wouldn't have invited you. We can't back down now. Although our Sun family may not be as prestigious as theirs, we're not ones to be casually bullied or trifled with. The matchmaker understood everything. Being well acquainted with all the villages and familiar with the local customs, she couldn't help but chuckle. No wonder. You might not be aware, but the first section, second section, and third section of the Xiao family have always had a strained relationship, particularly the second section, who have engaged in many inappropriate actions and severed ties with the first section. I suspect the third section of the family isn't heeding your wishes. They might be attempting to deceive you. The daughter-in-law of the Sun family grew displeased upon hearing this. But they're biological brothers. How can you say such things? Isn't what this brother-in-law's daughter-in-law said the truth? It doesn't make sense. Observing the tension, the matchmaker pursed her lips and refrained from further comments. As expected, Mrs. Sun was determined to go to Shouting Village and confront eldest uncle and Ms. Fong. She even rallied some members of the Sun family to accompany her. Ms. Fong chose to ignore their actions. Instead, she sought the assistance of the land officer and the village elders to mediate the situation with Ms. Ma and uncover the whole truth. Ms. Fong insisted on waiting for Xiao Yunduan to return and make the final decision, as per Xiao Yunduan's wishes before his departure. He had made it clear that he wouldn't consider marrying Tao Tao until his return. As Tao Tao's mother, Ms. Fong was in the dark about the entire situation. However, Ms. Ma, being Tao Tao's aunt, had already made the promise. It simply didn't make sense. If Ms. Fong wasn't present, eldest uncle might have given in to Ms. Ma and third uncle's demands. But with Ms. Fang's presence, he couldn't side with his wife. Therefore, he decided that they would discuss the matter when Xiao Yunduan returned. If Xiao Yunduan had no objections, then the marriage would proceed. However, soon enough, Ms. Fong discovered that epilepsy ran in the Sun family. Members of the Sun family, including Madame Sun's father-in-law, Madame Sun's husband, and the intended groom for Tao Tao, all suffered from this illness. When it flared up, they would convulse on the ground, foaming at the mouth and rolling their eyes. It was a frightening sight. If Tao Tao were to marry into the Sun family, there was a high probability that her son would also inherit this illness. Even if her son escaped it, her grandson would likely be affected. There was no known cure for this condition. Enraged by this revelation, Ms. Fong scolded eldest uncle and dragged him to the third branch, where she slapped Ms. Ma twice. The following day, she arranged for the village representatives to confront Ms. Ma at the Sun family and bring the truth to light. The wedding arrangements were no longer going to proceed. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.